All right.
That might explain your political views.
Hey, we'll see. Maybe. All right. Welcome everybody. How y'all doing? Hope y'all are well. We got some good people here. We're going to talk about we got a special edition show here today that we kind of threw together. We're gonna be grading Trump. His first couple weeks here in office. Let's just go around the table and introduce everybody. I'm Admiral Gibbs. You all know me for the audiences that haven't seen me before. Tuple.
I'm Pentuple. I'm the self-appointed leader of MAGA headquarters here on Twitch, and I stream over here on Twitch. Have you guys heard of Twitch?
Maybe. And LSP.
I'm LSP. Pentuple, that's 5, right?
That is, yeah. Let's go.
Okay, we're like 5 personalities merged into one. What am I walking into here?
You're absolutely correct. That's what that is. I never put that together. We're having a good day today, Ralph.
We learn something new every day.
It's like quintuple, but pentuple.
Yeah, now you said it, it's fucking obvious as fuck. But,
Well, it's actually, I won't bore you with the story, but that's not how it started. That was like unintentional.
we can talk about it after he gives his intro. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, that was my intro. Hi, I'm LSP. I'm ready to talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to hear the Pentuple thing real quick, and then let's talk about Trump.
Okay. Well, it's funny because like I made it like for like a Fortnite account. It was originally Pen to Play. It had spaces and stuff, but then I had to shrink it to play in VR, and I made that my name, and everyone called me Pentuple in there, and so I've just run with it since then. But it actually works out because Pentuple is like 5, and I have 2 sisters, 2 parents. There's 5 in my like nuclear family growing up, so I kind of like it. It's like Pentuple's a cool name. I liked it.
Yeah.
But it's just I didn't even intentionally go to quintuple, but you're right. It's like it works out.
You have to turn your camera off in OBS, and then turn it off in here, and then turn it back on in here. Yeah, it's crazy how I just knew immediately what the problem was. But yeah, I think LSP is right. It's definitely your multiple personalities. Next is going to change the name to Legion. You know. But yeah. So while he works on that, yeah, Trump's first couple of weeks have been. Let's just go with eventful. I feel like
I give him an A.
There's going to be cool. Yeah, I guess an A. Why are you going to give him an A? Go ahead.
I give him an A because he's doing everything. I mean, it almost feels like he's doing like can he keep the he couldn't possibly keep this pace up for 4 years, right? But it's just like
no way.
A lot of the stuff we voted for, he's actively engaged with processing. You know what I mean? Like people are like the Democrats are memeing that he hasn't started eliminating the Department of Education yet, but it's like the fact that we're like already thinking that like all this is coming and all this stuff he's already done.
Well, didn't he say
like tariff stuff's been working in our favor? Like there's just a lot happening, and it's all this is what we voted for. We voted for a shakeup. We voted for some change. People are blaming like the tariffs about the economic impact of like the tariff threats and stuff, but it's like, what are we protecting? This whole point of the tariffs is that we don't have a great system right now. We are already suffering the economic impact of like poor trade deals. Like that's what the whole tariffs like point. This is what this is all about. So like it's everything I feel like has been working in our favor. There's been some hiccups. Like I was talking to him before we jumped in here, like my crypto portfolio isn't happy, but like at the same time, if you look at my crypto portfolio from when Trump got elected, it's still happy. Maybe it's not as the prime of the party, but we're still up there.
Yeah, that's that new money mindset, crypto.
Crypto, you got to get in crypto.
You need to start doing what I'm doing, and then you'll be set. I'll probably give us a learn you later.
You got to crypto? We'll have to do it at a different time.
I dabble a little crypto, but I found a better way. I think that's been safer, and I've gotten a lot more money over the long term. But moving on, we'll talk later. LSP, what do you think? I bet you that you have the same grade as Pentuple.
Yeah, it's an F with a hard R. I don't know, like the idea that this could go on for another 4 years is like terrifying to me, precisely because I'm talking to Pentuple and he's looking at the abolishment of a department of congressionally established department of the government that's just going to be completely abolished by the president without any checks and balances. I'm looking at that and it's like, okay, everything that makes America great is democracy, checks and balances. Yo, it's my intro, Pentuple. Why don't you chill? All right. Everything that makes America great, it is our democracy. It is our checks and balances. It is our ability to exert our influence around the world, that we are seen as a stable country or a bastion of freedom. All of these things is what makes America great. And Trump is just taking a shit on all of that. And I have to contend with this reality where people look at that and they're like, yeah, you know what I really love? I love just eroding checks and balances, bypassing Congress, passing unconstitutional nonsense via executive order, just consolidating power in one man, politicizing our entire system in a way that is obscene, has never been done before, and is very, very much corrupt, allowing an oligarch billionaire to basically buy his way into power. I look at that and I'm like, the America you guys like couldn't be uglier to me. Like, this is not what makes America great is everything opposite to what you guys like. So I give them a pretty hard F. Gibbs, how about you?
Fantastic. Yeah, I knew that this was going to be great. I'm a little bit not. There were a couple of things I didn't like, so I'm going to go with like a B, maybe like an 80. If it was got a number scale, it'd be like an 86.5. And I like the pace. The pace is fantastic. Big fan. The pace. I also like that. Unlike many politicians, whether or not you like Trump, he has come out and he has tried to fulfill campaign promises from the jump. Day one, deportation. That's what he says he's going to do. He's done it. He wanted to get Doge going. Doge is going. He said he's going to fucking play tough hardball with all these other countries. He's playing hardball. I like everything he's done. Big fan. One of the things I didn't like, though, and this is a big one. It was one, birthright citizenship. I don't know. We can talk about that later. But I'm a little iffy on that. But the really big one, if y'all want to know, and it's obviously because I'm a Texan, is because he wanted to curtail gun rights here in America, to help out Mexico. And that seems to be a promise he's made to him. And first of all, one, we don't even no promises about no guns to nobody. And two, I don't like them coming for my guns in any form. So bad, Trump, bad. It would have been high A for me, except for that. Otherwise, yeah, big fan. I think a lot, especially with the foreign policy. I feel like a lot of these countries have been taking advantages for quite a while. And even like, it's like kind of like, oh, well, these are our friends and they always are getting the net gain and we're not getting any of the negative. Listen, we're the superpower. We should be the final boss. Every time there's a fight, it should be NATO going in first. And then if NATO has a tough time, then we go in and we take care of this. Instead, what it is we go in and NATO might send some troops. And that is fucking bullshit. We've done these coalitions, and every single time, piecemeal numbers. I don't know. It's frustrating. And then anytime we play world police, somebody gets mad at us. So it's about time that we start telling people, okay, well, you didn't like us playing nice for all these years. Now we're going to be mean about it. And I like it. But other than that, we can get into it. It's up with you rejecting what he was saying.
I was just curious because you were pointing about checks and balances, but Trump ran on that as an issue, and I think a lot of Americans don't think that the Department of Education has lived up to the ambition that I guess existed when we created it.
Okay, just real quick, tell me.
Before Trump was around, I was big on education reform. I don't think our schools are particularly good. I mean, I'm a very radical on education reform, and I have been even before Trump. I don't like 5 days, 7 hours a day. I'm sitting at a job now as an adult working full-time 9 to 5. And I'm just I'm doing this so that my kids can grow up from age 5 to 18 quick. And do the same thing. I'm big on reforming education, but the more that you let it go to the federal government, the less control we have over having different systems of education. I'd love to see way more different types and systems of education. There's no way that this system we have is what we want to have in the long term going forward. Quick, so we need to kind of unlock that freedom for localities and states.
Yeah,
and
you're kind of repeating yourself.
To make those decisions.
Pentopple, just real quick for my sake, what do you do for a living?
I'm an attorney.
You're an attorney. Okay, I'm a teacher, so I've got a bit of a different view here.
I get that.
When you say well, the Department of Education, it's more power is being given to the federal government, to have oversight over education. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. My curriculum's set entirely by the state.
Because friends are teachers, so you're not one in a trillion. But let me ask you this:
okay,
how much of your curriculum do you have power? And what age level do you teach? And then how much power do you have over the curriculum that you're giving to your students?
I have to follow these things called TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge Standards. These are set by the state of Texas on what I can and cannot teach. So my curriculum is set by the state. And if you want to talk about radical education reform, what I would suggest you do is actually look at how states are performing based on their party affiliation, because that's quite revealing. We've had a governor, that's presided over a teacher. It's quite revealing because red states consistently perform the worst. That's why it's revealing.
Okay, okay. Well, is that going to also break down to cities versus like the out in the country? Like I live in Maryland, and it's well known that Baltimore is way worse here.
The state, not the city. The state sets the curriculum. So we're not going to break it down by city. The state sets the curriculum. They set the standards.
Okay, I don't.
Well, so I mean, that is,
argument.
So yeah, that is an interesting question. I mean, LSP, if you want to maybe elaborate on, I get that it's the states, and I remember Teeks from growing up, but so you don't think it matters like for the state, like because I remember when I was growing up, there was obviously the city schools that were good, and then there were the other schools that were really bad. Like it depended by the district. Like what is the cause of that? If it's what do you think is it Department of Education?
No, it's not the Department. The Department of Education exists to protect the rights of students with disabilities or students who are discriminated against for their race or some other form of that. That's what they do. That's primarily their function. They're not there setting education standards. That's not their job. What they do is they issue out grants and loans so people can go to college, and they protect people's rights when they're being discriminated against in terms of violating some federal civil rights law. That's their role. The standards are set by the states themselves, who says what you can and cannot teach. And in our case, we consistently get worse results when we're in Republican-led states. The issue is that resources are not distributed equally, and Republicans are hell-bent on ensuring that our public schools don't have the resources they need. We far and away, we are outspent by other states that prioritize public education versus Republican states where we try to use voucher-led systems to stall teacher pay, to stall student enrollment in public schools, to lead to more dilapidated facilities. Consistently, this is what Republicans do with the public education system, and it's consistently yielded worse results.
Double.
Sorry, I'm grabbing a pen because I don't want to keep forgetting what I was going to say. It's not your fault at all. I'm like, where's my fucking pen?
Well, why does that? So, okay.
Just real quick. You guys are going to talk about the quality of education, and you're going to completely gloss over my point that Trump is going to abolish something he doesn't have the authority to. That checks and balances are just being shit all over, and you're just going to completely abolish
the checks and balances. He ran on this, and I don't think the Department of Education
is like
being
a dictator on day one.
We need them to protect people from laws that already exist. If there's already the law that exists, I don't understand why we need a Department of Education to protect them from. We already have the law. The Department of Education isn't where the source of that law comes from. So, I don't buy this that we need them to protect
the Department
disabled
of Education
students.
The Department of Education who investigates when a violation of law occurs, because schools aren't likely to conduct those investigations themselves.
That doesn't mean that eliminate them.
Schools are not going to open themselves up to liability by saying we violated federal law. That usually doesn't happen.
Well, okay. So let me just do one thing real quick. Let me just clarify my position on this. This is not a big fish I have to fry as far as positions. I think that we will get to this because I do want to talk about the checks and balances thing. LSP.
Yeah, please. It's kind of a big deal.
Sure. Yeah, we're absolutely gonna do that. I would actually, but I do want to. This is interesting to me because you are a teacher, and so I'm learning here. Like I said, education is not. When I look at things, I'm looking at it from financial is my first. It's probably foreign policy, and then what's best for Texas. And what's best for Papa, right? And it's always what's best for Papa first, right? So this is how I look at things. So when I'm looking at this, education is not really a big one for me, unless you're looking at it from the Doge aspect of we need to cut funding to all sorts of shit that's not effective. Are you? So I guess let me ask you this then: are you arguing that the Department of Education is effective? Because it seems like you're saying this is a states' rights issue for the school board or whatever, and you're saying that the Republicans are arguing, okay, the quality of education is bad, we should just eliminate it when it's already a state rights. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So let me start with like a basic history lesson. Since the Department of Education has been established, Republicans have intentionally tried to undermine it from the beginning. Even Reagan said he was going to abolish it. Right. And every time Republicans have had power, so for example, in like the 2000s under the Bush administration, they pass education reform bills like No Child Left Behind, which institutes standardized testing across the board that ends up yielding worse results because now you've got teachers teaching to a test. The Department of Education, its role consistently has been to identify people who are in need, right? People who've been discriminated against in the school system who generally don't have the resources to advocate or represent themselves, or to find people who want to excel beyond their undergrad school and go to, I'm sorry, not their undergrad, but to go to college, right? to provide these people with loans and grants, such as the Pell Grant, that helps people like me, like myself, who couldn't afford college to go to college. So the Department of Education serves a valuable purpose in investing in human capital that is otherwise consistently neglected by Republicans.
Don't you think that the loan system could be one of the reasons you can't afford to go to college in the first place, though?
Well, that's
Like
interesting.
there is like a cycle.
The reasons that college has consistently become unaffordable is because they continue to expand curriculum, facilities, and amenities. So like they'll build more student housing, they'll open up a new study hall, their areas of research. It's because we've become a better educational institution as a country. Like our college systems has improved over the last 100 years. That's why college has consistently become more expensive. Then you have,
I have a quick question.
Just real quick. You have high demand to get into college with a low supply of spaces. That's another issue.
So you wanted to point at the difference between red and blue states. But wouldn't it be more interesting to point at government or public schools versus private schools and how those perform? Like high schools that are public versus high schools that are private? Because red state, blue state, that's still all under the Department of Education, which is kind of the point that we're making, right?
So actually,
I don't agree. I can explain why, but I'll wait on Gibbs.
Well, yeah. Real quick, because I want you to answer both, because it's easy. I was actually, and then we can move to the checks and balances thing. School vouchers are, how like what Abbott's proposing right now. Yes, I'm sure you're aware of this, right?
I am aware. He's consistently stalled teacher pay for like 6 years on it.
Are you a favor of the voucher system? Because I think that directly relates to private versus public schools. And well, go ahead if you want to.
No, because it undermines our public school system by taking resources from students who need to go to those schools away from them.
The vouchers.
Yeah, the vouchers cover some portion of private school. So it's basically subsidizing private school that for most people who are too poor to go to private school anyway, still wouldn't meet the tuition costs. So I'm not a fan of private. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Wait. So even hold on. Wait a second. You're saying even with the voucher, they're not going to be able.
Well,
to
the voucher helps.
The
voucher lowers the bar of entry. Is the point? Even if it doesn't lower the bar of entry all the way, it still lowers the bar. If you couldn't afford 12, but you could afford 16, now you can afford.
You're in favor of the vouchers, and you're clearly not.
Well, I just don't think what he's saying is like mathematically like sound. Like when you add a voucher, you can be like, oh, it still doesn't help this person who has no money to go, but it's like this person had a budget of 4,000, now their budget's 12. That is still meaningful, even if the person who has zero.
Most parents who send their kids to public school do so because they don't have the funds to send their kids to private schools.
For sure. If you have the option to send your kid to a school for free, I mean, that's obviously going to be like the highest demand for sure. There's no doubt about that.
As for private school performances versus public school performances, I
tend to not trust it. This is why we should have school choice.
I tend to not trust it because the standards for public school is very different than the standards of private school. For instance, Christian private schools teach that the earth is 6,000 years old. It's not. They teach lost cause mythology in their social studies. Lost cause is bullshit, right? They will teach things in a way that is not sound for a person to be set up as a well-learned person in college. Well, it's
for a Christian school if they believe that. You're against private schools in total?
I didn't
or
say
like
I was
religious schools?
I didn't say I was against private schools or religious schools. You want to send your kid to a private school or religious school? God bless you. You have the right to do it.
Disadvantage them, or what do you want to do then?
Don't take money away from my kid to send your kid to a subsidized private school so we can learn to be a dipshit. Right? That's the issue. Is you're robbing kids. The issue is that you're robbing kids from public schools.
To the private school.
No, the issue is that you're robbing kids from public school education to fund private schools.
Towards your student. That's what you're doing, actually.
Let me just ask a clarification question, because I could be wrong. I'm just so I understand, because like I said, this is not where I wanted this to go, but I'm learning, so I don't care. All right. Ouch. Did you just throw something?
By the way, the top 10 states for education. Just chat's been popping off on this. Top 10 states for education: Florida, Utah, Massachusetts. So Florida, Utah, arguably red states.
Quick question, right? Because this is how I understand the voucher system to work, right? And somebody tell me if I'm wrong here. All right. So schools are paid off of city taxes, usually like on your house, right? Like on your whatever.
Yes, property taxes.
Property taxes. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word, but yeah, that's it. So property taxes, they usually pay to city property tax, and then my assumption or understanding is that the voucher would be equivalent to the taxes paid, and they would just be taking their tax dollars and taking it to, say, if they wanted to go to a private school, or say they went to another public school out of district where they wanted to drive their kid 20 minutes or something. Those would be how that works. Is that correct?
So, sort of. The funds are generally pulled. Okay, so yes, your schools generally are funded by property taxes, which tends to produce disparate results. Ghetto neighborhoods will produce ghetto schools. Rich neighborhoods tend to produce rich schools, right? The voucher can be there to bridge a gap that I absolutely have no problem admitting. It will lower the barrier for entry. Most people who go to ghetto schools aren't going to reach that barrier all the same, and the money from those voucher systems.
Point. You certainly don't want to create a system where they.
I know you got to let me finish my point. You got to let me finish my point.
It's a bad point, but go ahead. You can do it.
Okay, well, let's delve into the bad point. What's the bad point?
I was just saying, you're saying, oh, the system doesn't allow for the entire public school like population to swap over, and like that's obviously not the goal. Is to incentivize everyone to swap over to private schooling.
Okay, I don't have a problem with people going to private schooling. I have a problem with them taking money from public schooling to subsidize private schooling. Do you count
even if they're not going to public schools? Because you were just taking issue with them doing that.
Every dollar they take from a public school system to siphon into a private school system is a public school that is
you're asking for subsidy for public school
resources. Yeah, the schools that most of our children go to, yes.
You're asking for schools to not suffer from the consequences of people choosing to not send their students to that school, which is just going to help bad schools. Why would you do that?
Okay, I don't know how many times I can repeat myself. I don't have a problem with people going to a private school. I have a problem with them taking money. No, but you want the public school subsidized.
Hold on.
It's the reverse,
even if they go to a private school.
It's the reverse. You're asking for private schools to be subsidized, which tend to be religious schools, which is against the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment.
It's not subsidized if their students actually go there.
Well, hold on. Let me just ask
You're asking for the money whether they get the student or not. You're the only one asking for that.
Right, yeah, because that's kind of what I was about to ask. Is if the voucher is basically like the property tax dollars given to them to go give to a different school, are you asking them to pay twice? Like, oh, pay your property tax and then pay again at the private school?
Yes.
Or if
I'm sorry, repeat that?
So, like, let me just ask this. Are you telling me that you want, say, like, all right, let's just use two examples, right? Example one, someone pays the property taxes, that becomes the voucher or whatever. And instead of going to
stop. The voucher does not become the property tax does not become a voucher, but continue. The vouchers is funded by the state. That's coming from the state government. It's not your local government with the property taxes.
So it's this. Okay, so it's the state money that would go to the school per the child, right?
Yes.
All right, so what you're asking, and where does the state get that money from? From, like, what, the lotto, right?
I mean, sometimes from the lotto, yeah. They have a general tax fund.
Yeah, and a general tax fund, right? So basically what I'm saying is so what you're saying is you'd rather have people pay the general tax fund, and so then they have to pay that and pay at a private school, or if they go out of district, they have to pay the general tax fund and then pay for the gas, and there's no like.
I see what you're saying. Any benefit. Here's the way I would say it.
Doesn't get any benefit for the kid going there.
Though we all pay for police, you are still free to hire security guards. It would seem asinine to me to say we'll take money from police officers to fund you so you can hire private security.
But hold on. So that's not how it necessarily works with police officers. But what about the other public school? If they're taking an extra kid, shouldn't they get the money from the state?
Yes, the public school gets they get usually about like $6,000 to $7,000 per student in our public school system here in Texas.
We're going to double the money. So basically the school I live in is going to get money, and the school that my kid's going to 20 minutes away, that's a different public school because I choose to drive him, if it's an open school, is also going to get the money. So we're doubling up?
No. Every cent, there's a finite amount of kids. There's a finite amount of funds. The funds that the states give to the schools, right? They will take the funds from our public schools to put into vouchers so that you can send your kid to a private school. That's what they do.
All right. Okay.
Hence my analogy about like taking money from police to give to security guards. It's the same thing.
So on the police thing, you can absolutely get private protection from police if you're a certain size person. Like that, they absolutely do that. Or if there's a threat to you.
Most of us are not a certain size person, and America should not be a place where your education rights are denied because you're not the right size person.
You don't have your education rights aren't. You're literally required to send your kids to law, which is one of the reasons that I don't think your security analogy falls, because you're legally required to educate your child. So the question is whether you have to send them to a publicly funded school or whether we have a system that allows you to send them somewhere else. We shouldn't have public schools funded if the people aren't even sending their students there. They should be funded based on how many students they have, not how many like they should have. And people who want to send their children to private schools
they're not
shouldn't
funded
be on
on
the
how they
tax
should.
burden for supporting the school.
Okay, you got something wrong. They're not funded based on how many they should have. They're funded on how much they do have. So already you're siphoning resources away from schools. All right. And point number two, I don't have a problem with a voucher system to send people there. Find another way to pay for it that doesn't take money from public schools. Because all you're doing is hurting.
Can pay for public schools,
all you're doing is hurting the kids in the public school system who have fewer resources to accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Weren't you just making the argument that it should be about like the red versus blue states because of how they perform? If private schools are doing better than public schools, shouldn't we fund that with our tax dollars? Why does it matter that the government is doing it if they're not better at doing it? The second time I've said this,
I don't have a problem with you funding private schools if you want to give people a voucher. I don't have a problem with school choice.
We can use tax dollars for these shitty public schools.
Pause. You're arguing with nobody. Just pause. I don't have a problem with a voucher system so you could send your kids to private schools. I have a problem with you taking the money to subsidize that private school education coming from public schools. This would be the third time I've repeated the same point that you've glossed over.
All right, that's fine. Let's move on. So let's talk about the checks and balances thing. What are you worried about with the checks and balances thing? And then we'll go to LSP, then we'll go to Temple, and then I'll go. So go ahead and tell me what you're talking about the checks and balances here.
Yeah, it's like first they came for the Bill of Rights, and I said nothing because fuck it. At the top of this, Gibbs, you said like what I like Trump because he's keeping his promises. The promises he's kept is he's going to be a dictator by day one. That's the promise he kept. The promises he hasn't kept is I'm going to lower the price of groceries day one. He hadn't done shit about the price of groceries. I'm going to end the war in Ukraine day one. He hadn't ended the war in Ukraine. Have I said something incorrect?
No, it's just funny because like you're trying to get these small W's when obviously like you're talking about campaign rhetoric, right? So you're like, oh, on day one I'm going to take these actions. He's taken those actions. Not a single Trump supporter thinks Trump isn't back like doing and doubling down on everything he's been able to do in these 2 weeks. He, like we said, this pace has been unreal. You're trying to like get these clever little W's, but it's like kind of funny because you have no idea who's going to run for you in 2028. Don't you have bigger issues to deal with?
You're playing politics. You guys just I'm talking policy
of all time.
Yeah, I get it. You're playing politics. I'm talking policy. Donald Trump, you're talking politics.
No, you're playing policy. Trump has done so much in the last 2 weeks. We literally couldn't even.
Would you like me to come back when you finish your point? I'll take a 5-minute break if you want to keep going.
No, go ahead.
Okay, you're talking politics. I'm talking policy. Donald Trump promised
you're
day one.
You're talking campaign rhetoric. You're like keeping a lot of prices on. He's back in an executive order that says prices are now.
No, let him.
His actions he's taking will lower grocery prices.
All right. So one thing, Ben Temple, your mic is still doing that thing where if two people talk, it cuts out.
I don't know
I like. All right, I'm gonna work on it with you after this. All right, before the I'll help you out here. We will figure it. Did you message Guy? Guy will fix this.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I just like what could it possibly be? I don't know.
So we're gonna go one at a time. So all right, LSP, you go. Don't interrupt Ben Temple, and then if you want to object, you can object. But then I'm gonna go, and we're gonna go.
It's gonna be hard. So this is why I say he's talking politics and I'm talking policy. Nothing I said was incorrect. He's bitching at its campaign rhetoric, and he has to interrupt me because he knows it's a losing point. Donald Trump promised to lower the prices of groceries day one. He hasn't done that. In fact, he's done the opposite of that. He sent prices surging with these idiot trade wars. Same with ending the war in Ukraine. What he has done successfully is appoint a government agency that was not created by congressional mandate. So we just created it by executive fiat. That's taking a hatchet to congressionally established agencies that should exist because the people we vote for to represent us enacted them by law. So he's circumvented Congress. Then he's fired the watchdogs who are responsible for ensuring that he's not that there's the actual fraud, waste, and abuse in government. That the inspectors generals, he's just completely fired them and replaced them with Elon Musk. So I'm worried because we have a unelected bureaucrat billionaire deep state that basically bought his way into government. If this was a Democrat who did this, if George Soros spent $260 million to buy his way to a government agency and then take a hatchet at everything Republicans love, you would be losing your fucking mind. You'd be crying about the constitutional order. That you're not tells me you're playing politics, and I'm here talking policy. Continue.
No, we do. We talk about his power over district attorneys across the country is crazy. Wow. Okay, so I'm trying to think of all this stuff to respond to there. What I'm saying with you're talking about campaign rhetoric, like lowering prices on day one. You don't go in there and executive order the grocery prices down. What he's talking about is he's going to take actions that will lower gas prices on day one. And he arguably took those by making energy more accessible, by drilling for oil and stuff like that. These are things that do directly relate with the prices. It doesn't mean that we've regret our vote or that we take an L. We're talking about these are things that he will deliver on long-term policy, and people like you are setting yourselves up for 6 months from now when the grocery prices are lower more than they were during the Biden administration. We could post all the screenshots of you guys spurring out about it. What he's done in the first 2 weeks is deliver on nearly every campaign promise. Like, you're talking about this checks and balances and stuff. This is what we voted for. This is what it feels like to be on the losing side. It sucked when we were there, and it's going to suck for you.
So
that was not a substantive thing was said against what I said. It's just you
You're
lost.
like, oh, is it
I
wrong
pointed
that he
out
didn't
all
lower
of these
prices?
things. I pointed out. I pointed out. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I pointed out all of these things that Trump has done to erode checks and balances. All he had to say was, "Your side is
ridiculous."
I'll be back in 5
all of them
minutes.
were ridiculous. The
I'm gonna
point
get a
of Doge is to get rid of these things that the American people largely don't even know are happening. Like, you're like, oh no, this unelected thing. Guess what? Half of our fucking U.S. budget is, dude. We have so much fucking waste, so many departments, so many agencies that are just doing nonsense, wasting taxpayer dollars. The fact, like, you're scoffing at the exact problem that this is designed to solve. This is why it's like it's not serious. It's like nothing you say has made sense. If you have an issue with unelected like agencies and like bureaucrats and stuff, that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what this is.
I mean, so hold on. Aren't there a few agencies that are made by executive order? Let me just look this up real fast.
Dude, there's like 450 agencies, and something like 180 of them don't even like actually exist. They're just like set up to exist. Like,
Doge is one.
People have been
you can set up agencies
decades.
by executive fiat. Generally, those agencies don't have the power to completely take a hatchet to congressionally established agencies. Those exist by law.
Did you have like this huge spurg out when Biden tried to forgive student loans? I'm just curious if you're consistent at all legally or not.
The reason you have to describe it as a spurg out is because you're on the losing side of this argument. You have nothing to say. Right, so and yeah, I did have a problem with that. If student loans, I did have a problem with it. If student loans are going to be forgiven, they should be forgiven by congressional mandate, not by executive fiat through the Department of Education.
Well, so, okay. I would like to respond.
Well, hang on. Will you acknowledge that I have been consistent this entire time? Pentuple? I just answered your question directly.
I'm not willing to give you an answer.
Okay. Dog.
All right.
You're scared. It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, moving from the scared thing, because Papa Gibbs ain't scared. I got some questions, right? Like, and some answers. I think one. Let's just talk about the grocery prices thing. You know, this is a misnomer that I think that a lot of the Dems are missing, right? Trump, right? Like when he said, like, I'm gonna use an example from Alex Jones's famous video that they made or whatever, where he's like, you know, I expect him to get shit up to his ankles. He's cleaning out the swamp, whatever, right? So when we talk about grocery prices, you know, there's a lot of factors that are playing in, right? And I'm not going to try to sit here and do a lot of factors mean, but what we mean by this is by the time he gets out of office, grocery prices are going to be within reason. Not that they're going to be tomorrow. It's starting, eggs are going to be at 50 cents again, right? That is not what any Republican thought. We knew shit might get a little bad before it gets better, especially when you're ripping off the Band-Aid and looking at all the rot. Sometimes you got to clean shit out. Like, we knew that was going to thing. We knew that we might have some suffering initially, and we have at least 2 years to get it done because we have the midterms. That is what every Republican knew signing in. Everybody voted. They're like, all right, we got to get some shit changed, grocery prices. So an initial upswing doesn't really bother me. Like, I get it. It sucks. I'm not a huge fan. I wanted to do some fucking cornbread muffins this week. Usually cornbread's about as cheap as you can get. It's a can of Jiffy, 98 cents, and 1 egg. Guess what? We ain't making no cornbread because eggs are $7 a fucking thing. I get it. You know, you just make cuts. That's what you do. It's not fun. But at least I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now, because before, under Biden, all I saw was my dollar becoming worthless, right? So when that comes to the trade and the tariffs and the shit, I've been a big fan. He's been dropping his nuts on these countries, and they've been giving in. I looked up the shit. I heard on the panel last night about how, the 10,000 troops thing was already negotiated by Biden. That was not fucking true, by the way. I looked that up. All this went through, spent about an hour trying to make sure I could say that. No, she apparently just had this shit in her back pocket ready to go because Biden had tried to do it before or something. It didn't work.
You can find news stories of this in December. They'd already committed to doing it. It is absolutely true that Mexico was committed to sending those troops before Trump even got to office.
They committed into December. Once Trump, it was guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, heir apparent, people were coming in. They knew. You know what I'm saying? So, like when I'm sitting here reading this shit, and hearing this shit, I'm like, let's talk about these tariffs. They've been taking advantage of us. We're everybody's friend all the time, and then whenever we need friends, where are they? They're never there. All they're doing is fucking somebody else. Let's talk about Panama. They charged us, on average, $55,000 a ton. And 70%, 60 to 70% of the shipping that goes through Panama is us. They're fucking us. And we built the canal for them. I'm sorry. It's time to I'm not saying low on him. Glad he did that. Colombia, they capitulated. Mexico capitulated. Canada capitulated. Greenland's next. It's he's winning. He's coming in there. Ukraine, we've been just giving them bukus of money. What's the net gain for this? I want the Ukraine war to continue, right? Like, I own military industrial complex stocks. I'm against my MAGA friends on this. I'm a big fan of the war. The longer it goes, the richer I get. I'm like, woo, let's go. Like, I'm okay with it. But guess what? It can always be a better deal. Now Trump's saying we'll keep funding you if we get exclusive access to your rare earth minerals. Oh, cool. Now we're fucking getting 2 wins. Big fan of that. Doge was a previous company was a previous agent they got it and then made with the executive fiat. There's hundreds of agencies that have been made at executive fiat level throughout history. So I don't know about this one. This is way less invasive than anything FDR did. So anyway.
No, FDR had congressional law to back up a lot of what he did. I wouldn't agree with that at all. You're right. Trump is draining the swamp. The issue is he's filling it with his own swamp monsters. Elon Musk is a swamp monster. Elon Musk is the richest person in the world who bought his way into a government agency. You guys are against all these unelected.
He bought his way in.
Yo!
Why do you say that?
Yo! Because he donated $280 million to Trump's campaign. Are you serious? Why do you think I say that? Hey, Trump, here's $280 million. Can I be the fuck out? It would be great if I could respond and you could try not interrupting. That would be nice. It would be great if I could respond to what Gibbs said and you could try not interrupting.
Hold on, let him go, Pitapple. Then you just respond after.
Yeah, it's so hard for you. Just chill. You'll get your chance. It would be great if I could respond.
I was trying.
No, Donald Trump is filling the swamp monster with his own monsters, right? And this was the same thing we saw in the last administration, where you had so many people from his administration exiting his administration with criminal fucking charges. What does Trump do when he gets in? He fires the people who made those charges in the first place. He clears out the Department of Justice, right? One of the reasons I'm worried about big government here is because you're not supposed to weaponize the Department of Justice. You're not supposed to fire career prosecutors. You're not supposed to give a MAGA questionnaire to make sure all the employees have their views and their voting history down. The law enforcement is supposed to be apolitical. It's not supposed to be partisan. It's not supposed to be just chock full of Republicans who are there to bully Democrats. He instructed the Department of Justice to compile lists of names of FBI agents who investigated January 6 crimes. Why? So we can give them the hatchet? He fired attorneys who worked with Jack Smith. This is highly politicizing our nation's law enforcement. You guys would be pitching a shit if a Democrat did that. So that there again, we exist with these double standards. Democrats didn't do that. By the by, we're still under we're still under Chris Wray's FBI the entire time under Biden. January 6th was a crime against this country, and Trump pardoned the criminals who attacked law enforcement. Our felon president pardoned a bunch of criminals who attacked law enforcement. You guys are simply put soft on power. I ain't done, Gibbs. What? You said a lot. I wrote it down. Well, you're right. I don't want a monologue.
Oh, wait.
No, this should be a dialogue. I'm sorry. This should be a dialogue. I got a lot I could rant against.
You're fine. I just want to say something a little bit trouble with. I just, do you disagree that? Okay, so I think you started off with Trump. Trump's putting his own swamp monsters in, right? So, let's just say I agree for the sake of argument they are swamp monsters. Do you agree though that the Dems have not already had like a system in place that's enabled them to be like president 16 of the last 20 years and control Congress for like a major portion of that time? Do you not agree that they have their own system like backed by their own billionaires? Or
no, I don't agree. I think our government for the better part of 40 years has been consistently biased in favor of Republicans, right? Every state gets 2 senators, so the least populous states, which is what Republicans thrive on, have more representation in the Senate than Democratic states do, which tend to have much more population. The House of Representatives is heavily gerrymandered in favor of Republicans. You've got the Electoral College that ensures that a president who lost the popular vote, right, for the first time in the better part of 20 years, And for the first time in the better part of 20 years, we
Teacher.
actually had a Republican win an
God.
election. Nothing I said has been factually wrong.
In
He's going to cry about it.
in
You have
favor.
nothing of substance to say. Everything I said has been factually correct.
Okay, Jay.
You want to let him cry? I'll let him cry.
No, I mean, well, yeah, I guess let him talk here for a couple minutes here since he's been. Okay, Temple, are you ready?
Oh, to add on to that, they held a Supreme Court seat open for a year so they can appoint their own. Something has never been done before. Our system favors Republicans heavily, but continue.
Well, let's go to the lawyer here real quick. So, you doesn't seem to be a big fan of the Constitution, in my opinion, even though he was bitching about checks and balances. I'm a little confused.
It's a fallacious way to think about it. The Republican Party might also just represent the people that live in those lesser populated states, but I'll just move on. I'm not interested in that. What I do want to challenge you on,
Because you have nothing to say.
he bought his way in. Hang on. You say Elon bought his way into this administration, but I would argue he's actually in a different position than most billionaires, like Bill Gates, for example, with previous administrations, because Elon actually campaigned with Donald Trump. As a Trump supporter, we saw him with our movement basically people point at July is when he really jumped on after the shooting, but he was with our movement from the start. So it's not like he's come from out of nowhere just because he has money. He probably wasn't even Trump's biggest donor. There's probably donors at Elon's level that don't have any pull. It's because he campaigned with us. He's just one of the faces of the movement at this point, whether you like it or not. That's what we voted for. And then the whole Jan 6 thing, I mean, I don't know how long you guys are going to be able to hold on for that long, because you guys really got screwed. If you didn't think that Jan 6er should be pardoned, you definitely shouldn't have let Biden pardon the committee that prosecuted them. You can't let people be in jail and then pardon the people that put them there. I mean, what are you saying when you do that? It's so obvious that J6 was blown out. That's why you had to pardon them. And even the Democrats, like, how are you supposed to walk this back after saying, oh, pardons are just admitting guilt, Trump's going to do it? And then he pardons the entire Jan 6 committee and Fauci, and it's just like, you guys are about to rack up so many L's over the next few months. I'm honestly nervous for you guys because I'm already tired of winning and it's been 2 weeks.
Not a thing of substance. Not a thing of substance was said. You had to issue this. Not a thing of substance was said. Not a thing of substance was said. Not a thing of substance was said. You had to issue these. Okay, well, I'll be back. Let me get a cardboard cutout of myself.
Did the Jan 6 committee not?
Okay.
Yeah,
just got blown.
I'll be back in like an hour.
Oh God.
Go ahead.
Hey, Gibbs, I just want to make the point. This is exactly why we need to eliminate the Department of Education, because the quality of people that become teachers are people like this who can just dismiss an argument that they don't like. Oh, it's not substantive. Did they not pardon the committee that put these people behind bars? If you didn't think that Biden or that Trump should pardon them, you certainly can't. Like, pardoning the committee logically mandates pardoning the people involved, obviously.
All right, well, I'll speak. So I know that.
Can I respond to any of that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Without Pentuple crying like a little bitch?
Right.
I gotta point out, every single time I've had to make a response, he's had to interject with some personal attack. So if you want to be personal, I'll be personal. I don't know what sort of fucking lawyer doesn't read the Constitution that's going to be cheerlealing half the shit. But the reason, shut the fuck up, dude.
So
Jesus Christ.
Just let him go, and then I'm gonna go after you.
The Federal Department of Education.
Go have a cry.
It's defense. Right here.
Go have a cry.
Listen close.
Okay, thank you.
Your students' teachers. Here he is.
Sakes. I'll be back in an hour, Gibbs.
Take a good listen.
All right, Pentuple, just let him go. Let him go. Let him go. All right, let him go. All right, you go. All right, here's what's gonna happen. LSP, you're gonna go. Pentuple's not gonna interrupt. Then I'm gonna go, and then Pentuple, you can say.
Do me a favor. If that motherfucker talks again, mute his ass. All right, because I ain't gonna get a fucking word in if he's gonna keep crying.
All right.
So once again, Pentuple has nothing of substance. That's why he puts on this performance. Okay, the January 6th committee had to be pardoned because Trump ran on weaponizing the Department of Justice. Clear and through, Trump ran on weaponizing the Department of Justice. He's talked about purging the Department of Justice and weaponizing it against his political opponents, and he's been doing that since 2016 when he said he'd appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton. More than that, January 6th committee members, they didn't attack police officers, fool. They weren't wheeled in chains and bear spraying people, and they weren't released despite having convictions for fucking rape. Some of these January 6 people who were pardoned, they end up getting arrested. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. He sounds outraged. I want to let him finish.
No. He's
Go ahead.
reacting to what you're saying. I can't mute him for just like laughing in the background. I mean, I guess I could.
It'd be great if he could like try to shut the fuck up. No, like all
I'm
these
just
people
listening,
all these
bro,
people,
you're just
all
like
these,
fucking
oh my
saying
God.
everything has been repeated for
go,
years.
just
Nothing new.
He's still going. He's still going. Put a mute
right,
button
it's
on that
fine.
motherfucker. No, all
right,
the
it's fine.
like half these people that Trump pardoned. I mean, like we got people who were arrested again for solicitation of a minor. We got people arrested again for child sexual abuse, or people who are wanted for rape. You got somebody getting in a shootout with a cop like 3 days after this fool's left out of jail. You got people
Hang on,
convicted
your
of
argument.
Okay, well,
Your
hang on.
argument
Just let him
against the
go.
pardons is things that happened after the pardon. Like, what are we doing here? How are you a teacher? I just like the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Just let him go. I want to hear.
Nothing of substance. That's why he's doing this.
Because some of them did things after the pardon.
Hold on, Bedeviled.
Dude, I'm homeschooling my kids.
I don't want to mute you. Just let him finish all the way, and then I'm gonna go.
He's physically incapable of doing it. He's physically incapable, my guy.
Dude, you just go on.
Just let him
I haven't gotten to respond yet. You keep crying. There's
Just
1,500 full pardons, including people members of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers who were convicted of seditious conspiracy. If you think these people were overcharged, right, and they were convicted of crimes they didn't commit, thankfully there's an appeals process for that. I notice you're not running on any kind of criminal justice reform, right? You don't seem to think the only situation where you think maybe the system doesn't work as a lawyer, funny enough, is here when Donald
is this
Trump
coming from? You're just gonna straw man me now? I haven't said any of this.
Is here?
You can just
oh, for fuck's sake!
Tell me what I think. I'm not going to let you
I'll be back.
on for an
Let me know when
hour
he's
telling
done.
me what I think.
Holy shit! This motherfucker doesn't shut the fuck up. I'm just gonna chill here until Gibbs tells me he's gonna shut the fuck up.
That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna mute you now.
Thank you.
And then you're gonna go, and then after you go, I'm gonna go. So he's got the pen and paper ready. He's gonna write notes.
Okay, so
you go like a hyena in the background, and it'll be all right.
Okay, it is a 2v1, so I'd appreciate a little leeway here.
Listen, I'm trying.
Oh, I know you are, Gibbs. You are a stand-up guy, Gibbs. I don't want you to misunderstand me.
Honestly, just so you know, I am a piece of shit. But I try to moderate.
Who's to say a piece of shit can't be a stand-up guy?
I agree. Good looking out. Now, yeah, just go ahead, and then I'm gonna respond because I think I have questions of substance. So you go ahead first, and then I'm gonna go, and then Bedevil's gonna go.
Donald Trump is the first president in U.S. history to become president with a felony conviction. That's who you want to represent your party. He pardoned people, point blank, pardoned them, who attacked police officers. Who tried to overturn a democratic election and attack cops with chains and bear spray and batons. You had a guy stomping on a cop's neck, using stun guns on an officer till he has a heart attack. Donald Trump let those people loose on our streets. He talks endlessly about how other countries are emptying their prisons and into our streets to make our streets more dangerous. Donald Trump did that day one. He emptied our prison of violent felons and made our streets more dangerous. If you really think there's some sort of corruption in the system, we've got an appeals process that you're supposed to let play out here, right? I don't believe these people were overcharged. You have a jury of their peers here who are looking at the evidence presented to them and deciding unanimously that the people who are accused of these crimes are guilty of those crimes. More than that, you have a judge presiding over several of these cases who were appointed by Donald Trump himself. Okay, the system is not rigged against Trump. Trump is a criminal, and he's cronies with criminal, which is why he attacks law enforcement and tries to fire law enforcement and punish law enforcement and pardons criminals. There.
All right. So I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute Pentuple. Pentuple, I'm gonna go now. Don't interrupt me, because if not, shank. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So I have some questions, Chris. I think they're of substance. So you started with when you came in, arguing for about the checks and balances. That was your big complaint, right? So you're saying Trump is just bypassing it. Just correct? Yes.
I wouldn't say it's my big complaint, but it's one of my complaints. Yeah, I have lots of complaints. That's just
sure, yeah, lots of complaints. I got you. I just want to make sure that I didn't put words in your mouth. All right. So that was something you're upset with. Now, that's a little rich to me for a couple of reasons. Because I'm a fan of the Constitution personally, right? Like I think it's a living document. It's a great document. Could there be changes that could be better? Sure, but I think it's done a pretty fucking good job so far. Now, yeah, we the people, nice, yeah. So when I'm looking at this stuff, the first thing
Just by the way, I agree 100% with what you just said about the Constitution. Continue.
Cool. All right, good. So we're finding common ground. So at the end, you can tell after Temple goes, you can tell me where you disagree. So you said you like checks and balances. Well, the Senate is one of those checks, right? You think it favors Republicans too much. Well, the Senate is designed to be the upper house. You have two senators from each state. Every state gets the same. It's supposed to be the higher institution. That's why senators get 6 years. You're supposed to represent the educate. It's supposed to represent the state as a whole, as an entity. It's a check against the populist House, where the House representative members get 2 years, and they have to run. They run and they run and they run and run, and it's crazy. Or maybe it's 3. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I could be wrong. But the point is, it's supposed to offset the House, right? Which is going to be quick to prone change, and they're going to have whatever. So this is one of those checks that you're talking about, and yet you seem to be upset about it. Gerrymandering. Listen, I like gerrymandering because both sides can do it when they're in power, and both sides have done the shit out of it. And so if you don't like gerrymandering, how it's been done, then I'm going to be honest. My response to you in this one, and there's no point even arguing anymore because you're not going to move me, is get good scrub because everybody does it. If you're good at gerrymandering, win. If you're bad at gerrymandering, well, learn to get better because it's going to keep happening. And so I don't really see it. I see it's an equal playing field on that. Pardons are also a constitutional power of the president. Now, listen, I could sit here and I get your outrage from January 6th. I get it. The left is upset about January 6th. Y'all think it's an insurrection. Personally, if it was a very shitty fucking insurrection. I think that BLM, which was not an insurrection per se, and actually was much more indicative. It looked more like an insurrection, especially with the Chaz physically taking over an area for several weeks. I think that is more of an insurrection than January 6th. However, I don't think either one were insurrections, if I'm really being honest. And when I say BLM was an insurrection, it's more of a talking point to infuriate the left because I think that they're equivalent because of the amount of damage and whatnot. Now, furthermore, when we talk about the pardons, I get your outrage. If you actually think it was an insurrection, you would be pissed about this. However, the Republicans and a lot of us are just sitting here going, wow, we're also sick about all these other pardons that happen every other time a president's in office. There's always some pardons, whether it's Republican or Democrat, where we go, oh my God, should they let this murderer off? I think that even happened with Biden, right? I can't believe it. And the family's upset and people are upset, and it's and they let him off. It happens all the time, right? So did I like the Biden pardons at the end? Fuck no, I think they're all criminals, and I want to investigate them. But it's why would we even do it now? Because they fucking got pardons. Then we come to the January 6th, and you're mad about that. I say, okay, equal, don't give a shit. Presidents can pardon who they want. Is it shitty? Yeah. Am I a huge fan of the pardon? Whatever. But it's something in the Constitution, and I think that's probably there. It's better to have it than not have it, if we need it. So, I don't know. I don't know if I really agree that you're super pro Constitution if you're really upset about all the checks and balances, and then because it seems like you had some pretty big issues with them. You just didn't like the way Trump is using his powers to get shit done. And I'll let you respond to that, but I'm gonna let Pentumble go now, and then you can respond.
Don't worry, he'll want to respond to my thing too. I would say the thing about him coming in as a convicted felon is kind of ironic to your point that they're going to weaponize the justice system. I mean, give me a fucking break. And then second, as far as the pardons, I don't trust your understanding of these cases because a lot of these weren't adjudicated by a court. They were plea deals, or not adjudicated by a court, by a jury. This isn't how all of those cases went. A lot of them were plea dealed out because of the looming threat and terror of this whole Jan 6 narrative, making it impossible for them to put up a legal defense. There was a lot of really malicious prosecuting going on in these cases. So the pardons are, in my opinion, I like what he did, and he didn't do blanket pardons. He looked at them case by case. Not everyone who got pardoned came out with a clean record. You were right. Some people did some pretty heinous shit, and they shouldn't get totally off scot-free. But even attacking a police officer is 3, 5, 10 years most in any state. A lot of these people served 4 years. I think pardoning them is just they've served their term, even if you want to argue they did that. But not all of them got out with clean records. And then I would just say, if you want to respond, maybe you'll concede the argument for those cases that were decided by plea deals and you just want to apply them to the others. That's a fair position to hold if you want.
Yeah, before you respond, let me just add one thing to that because I forgot about that one. Is the felon thing also doesn't really bother me? I definitely think there's factions within a lot of these different organizations, whether they're Dem factions, Republican factions, neocon, whoever. I mean, that's a whole different subject that we could do a panel on just to talk about factions, but we don't need to today. But yeah, I think that it was a very faction based like attacks on Trump. So I don't necessarily. It seems like a really ticky tack thing to try and get him unelected. It was. I don't know. It seemed pretty. I don't know. Wasn't a huge fan of the whole thing. I also, to be fair, did not like the Hunter Biden case because if you are a Republican, you are pro 2A. The Hunter Biden case is terrifying, and I've legal pressed it because now they're going to come for our guns, guys. Anyway, sorry, LSP, go ahead.
Okay, there's a few points there. Most of my responses are actually going to be to you, Gibbs. I don't know how to. So, like, what Pentuple had to say, again, no substance, was give me a break when. It's like,
literally, you just dismiss
okay,
what I say like it doesn't matter.
I'll be back.
Did you know
when I come back?
They had. Let him say it. It's just like
I'm gonna just mute you while he talks
because he's physically incapable of it.
All right,
go ahead. Say your spiel, and then I'm gonna let Pentuple respond.
A lawyer with no self-control is terrifying. No, when I pointed out he was a felon.
Hold on. I gotta reject that. Have you met lawyers? No lawyers.
Yes, I've met lawyers.
Come on, bro.
I used to work at the DA's office. I've met plenty of lawyers.
They are
he had. No, as if to prove my point, what Pentuple said to when I pointed out Trump's a felon was, "Give me a break." That's what he said. Give me a break till he's a felon. Then he claimed his only other claim was that Donald Trump issued these pardons line by line, which is even more terrifying if it is, because that means Donald Trump knowingly and intentionally pardoned people who attacked law enforcement. That's what he did. As for your point, Gibbs, about the pardons that Biden issued, Biden didn't pardon murderers. He didn't. He commuted the death penalty sentences. They're still serving life in prison. You might feel a certain way about the death penalty, but they're not getting off. They're not free. They're not walking the streets like these January 6ers who are now like trying to solicit minors and getting into fights with police that ultimately get them killed.
Minors?
Yes, I'll send you some news stories after this. There several January 6ers have gotten arrested again on charges of solicitation with a minor or for some previously wanted felony rape charge. Like it's shit like that. Anyway, one of your things was like Senate is one of those checks and balances that's against the populist House. I don't have a problem with the Senate. The Senate's fine. I was just pointing out how the system favors Republicans. I didn't say the Senate should go away. I like a system that gives people from lesser populated states equal representation. It should represent the states. I'm just pointing out that tends to broadly favor Republicans. As for gerrymandering, I couldn't be more opposed to it because it's a loophole in our system. It should not be the case that in a democratic republic that the elected get to choose the electors. That just incentivizes more corruption in extreme politics. Of course, you're going to... What gerrymandering has historically been used to carve out areas so that black people can't get political representation. And that still continues today. Don't be shocked, that absolutely continues today. Right? It's by its nature, partisan gerrymandering isolates by race. So I'm not a fan of that because it's not democratic. You said pardons are a constitutional power. I don't disagree with pardons are a constitutional power. I don't even have a problem with pardons, right? Pardons are fine. Sometimes you're going to find issues in the system where a pardon makes sense. I don't have a problem with the president having a power to pardon. I have a problem with the president using that power to pardon people who attacked the Congress on his behalf so that he could stay in office. And you should have a problem with that too if you're some sort of patriotic American. January 6th, you don't want to call it an insurrection. You can call it a shitty insurrection. I don't care what you call it. But it's the culmination of a coup attempt by Donald Trump. Donald Trump intentionally tried to stay in office, right? And he tried to instruct the Department of Justice to send fake letters out to people saying, we found fraud when they didn't actually find fraud. He got slapped down in every single court case they brought. And they tried to issue a fake slate of electors so that Donald Trump could stay in office. He perpetuated a fraud on the American people. And to pressure Congress into accepting those fake slates of electors, he called his own supporters to the Capitol on January 6th, where they subsequently attacked police after he directed them to the Capitol. The big difference with Chaz, you don't have any Democrat who's like, hey, all you anarchists, why don't you go up and establish your own part of the city and section everybody out and make your own separate state. Democrats didn't do that. Democrats didn't encourage people to set up Chaz. You can act outraged all you want. Give me a quote. I'll quote Trump.
All right, I'm gonna let Pentemple go now. All right, because
I mean,
and then
like
I'm gonna respond after him, and then you can go again on.
bringing up Chaz is ironic. I was like, yeah, did they go
I brought
after
up
them?
Chaz. I brought after Chaz. So for
No,
the
I
record.
just mean like, it's an ironic art. It's like a good position to take, because they didn't treat it with the same fervor that they did with January 6th. But it's just obvious to anyone who has a brain that January 6th was a protest that was obviously something was going on with the feds. The fact that they had to pardon the committee. I mean, like, you cannot cope with that. There's no coping with it. They were arguing for months. It's so funny. It's almost like the 4D chess argument where everyone thinks like Trump's just a genius, when in reality it's probably just a coincidence. But they were also arguing how, oh, Trump pardoning people. I mean, like, if you don't need a pardon, you don't get one. Why would you have a pardon if you don't need it? That doesn't make any sense. It's basically an admission of guilt. And then, of course, they pardoned Fauci and they pardoned the J6 committee. But of course, the only reason for that would be because of some hypothetical political retribution that certainly wouldn't have been started by the first administration to publicly prosecute their political opponent for an entire presidential campaign. The idea that, like, oh, this political prosecution, he's the one who's going to open the door to that. They literally came out and said, we know Hillary Clinton violated federal law by establishing private servers in her basement and engaging with classified documents on them and destroying evidence, deleting subpoenaed evidence, destroying physical evidence, breaking Blackberries with hammers, yet none of this fervor from our buddy over here on the left. So it's just obviously political, and it's just, I mean, we're going to be racking up W's for like, what, 4 more years? And then if they're still like, you didn't lower groceries, doesn't look like they have a chance against JD Vance either. Homeschool your kids.
You want to say anything to that quickly before I go? I got something I have.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's more of the same fluff from before. Obvious to anyone with a brain that January 6th was a protest. It wasn't a protest. It was a riot. It was a riot at the Capitol where people violently attacked cops, and then Trump pardoned them. Biden weaponized the DOJ.
Crowd, you know?
Biden weaponized the DOJ by convicting Trump. Well, you know what? Trump broke the fucking law, right? So admitting a fake slate of electors is a violation of the law. Calling. Shut the fuck up. Calling.
Literally the worst debater ever. I hope you teach kindergarten or something easy. I pray you're an elementary
school.
The
only reason you are throwing these insults is because you have nothing of substance to say, and you're proving it with every breath.
You haven't been able to
nothing.
Touch any of it.
If you've
been just deflecting.
You have a hard time listening, my friend. You get angry and then you respond, and that's why you can't hear what I'm saying.
Dude, you've gotten blown out of the water this entire panel. You've left 3 times. What are you talking about, brother? You're the one who's been running off.
I didn't think you wanted to talk to me. I thought you just wanted to monologue. If I can, Debs, can you hit the mute button so I can, like, I don't know, respond?
Right, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead real quick.
Jesus, fuck.
All right.
Let me know next time. I'll go get a pizza or something. I'll be fucking back. Hillary. There is very good reason to believe Hillary Clinton did violate the law. I don't have a problem with Hillary Clinton getting investigated. That investigation didn't reveal any criminal activity. That's what James Comey said. He had all sorts of reasons to be concerned. There are reasons to be concerned about Hillary Clinton storing classified or sensitive information on a private server. I don't disagree with that, right? And they did investigate it. They did their due diligence. They followed due process, and they cleared her. Donald Trump took classified information and stored it in a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. Shit was subpoenaed. That shit was subpoenaed by the Department of Justice, saying, "Hey, you got to return that shit." And he defied the subpoena. He lied. He lied and said, "I did return it." Right? So that's criminal. That's an obstruction. Then there's calling Georgia. Hey, Georgia, find me the votes I need to win the election. That's fucking criminal. You guys would be flipping a shit if a Democrat did it. Then there's paying off Stormy Daniels with campaign funds, which is an obvious violation of campaign finance laws. People do not donate to his campaign so that he could hide his extramarital affairs. This is just criminal. You guys are just defending criminal activity. The Department of Justice wasn't weaponized. The Department of Justice was doing exactly what it's supposed to do, investigating crimes. And this motherfucker committed a number of crimes.
All right, so I gotta respond to this. I'm gonna unmute Pentemple. All right, so I'm gonna respond to this, and then
it's just so one-sided, like a very.
I know you're like an ISIS victim, and I'm Jihadi John.
No, you have literally zero understanding of basic law, which is fine. We're not going to get to that, but
let me just find these here. Okay. So just the point of correction for the record, because I had my mom go back and check it. You started off by saying, I quote, "I'm not a huge fan of the Senate because it favors Republicans." Then you went into them getting 2 senators for each state, and now just to elaborate on this, and this is now me, which was a compromise between big states and small states to offset the power of the population some of the big states have. This is not inherently a Republican advantage. In fact, many different parties have had this advantage. In fact, the Democrats had this advantage for many, many years. And then we can argue about the Great Swap or whatever, but I would argue that the Great Swap actually didn't happen.
Sure, just real quick. I'm sorry, can I respond to that real quick?
Sure.
Okay, I never said I wasn't a fan of the Senate. I actually said the opposite. I am a fan of the Senate because it provides representation to states when states should be represented. And the way it advantages Republicans is because Republicans tend to populate the least populous states, which all get much more representation in Congress than Democratic states do for the same reason.
But
yeah, it's currently for the last. Well, actually, what you said originally was for the better part of 40 years. The institutions have favored Republicans. I provided examples. I provided like 3 examples of how it's consistently favored Republicans.
Okay, well, I disagree with those examples. First of all, I don't think it's inherently a Republican advantage. Maybe they benefited here. Also with the Great Swap, yeah, whatever. But before that, they did. Anyway, God damn it. Sorry, I got bugs. Texas. Anyway, this motherfucking bug. Okay, anyway.
Dog, clean your shit. We're in the same city. I ain't got bugs anywhere. Clean your shit.
Bro, it's this fucking dog, bro. It's the whole thing. Anyway, it's fucking a big ass fucking. I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's really fast. Anyway, so gerrymandering by race is bullshit. And if you're gonna sit here and try, listen, we can argue there's been gerrymandering by race. They've done that. I'm not gonna pretend that hasn't happened. But if you're gonna say it was originally to keep black folks out, then we need to retalk. We need to go do a little history lesson because they've been doing that to every group of people that got off of Ellis Island. They've done that to every group.
I didn't say originally. I didn't say originally. I said historically it's been used that way. I didn't say originally it was used that way.
All right. Okay. Fine. Okay. We're really.
Yes, I have to explain this because you guys take an entirely different meaning from what I said. Yes.
Listen, okay,
you should welcome being corrected on this. So you don't strawman me.
Listen, I'm not going to argue over, listen, one thing I'm not going to do is argue over historically or originally, sure, okay? You know what? If you meant it historically and you didn't mean originally, it definitely comes off one way of those. Listen, this is the thing the Dems do, and I will say this.
If you want, I can be clearer.
No, you could be clear. That's fine. But there's a reason why you chose historically and hope to sneak that through. Like, that was a language choice. It was very good. I'm going to give you credit. It was a good choice because it conjures up the idea that it's always been this. But you're right. It doesn't actually mean originally. It's a good word choice. It's a sales tactic. I've used similar things.
I'm not selling anything. Gerrymandering has historically been used to isolate black people from congressional representation. That is a factually true statement.
Sure, it's also been historically.
You might interpret that as since the beginning of this country it's been used that way. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. You now have clarification.
I'm saying that. Okay, cool. So, like, I mean, listen, every group's done it, and now it's done specifically by not just race. It's done by interest groups. They'll go here and look. Oh, hey, these guys all voted in this area a certain way. We're gonna carve around it like this. So it's definitely evolved from race to now we have cool things called this cool thing called Statista. I don't know if you've ever used it, but my undergrad was political theory, right? And my specialty was developing algorithms to use in statistics that could go and predict what populations we're going to do, right? So, hey, guess what? That's what they're doing. They got somebody much smarter than me going, hey, this population is probably going to continue to vote this way based off these demographics. We're in power. We're going to redraw these zones to our best interest. And both parties do it. So, like, once again, get good scrub. Modern gerrymandering is not the same as gerrymandering in 1866. I'm just saying, not really the same. Biden also did the thing where vote for me or whatever. I don't know if you remember, vote for me and your check's in the mail. He literally said, I'm going to pay you to vote for me. That's word. Like, now, that seems pretty fucking criminal to me.
Hang on. Can you link me a story to that?
Sure. Give me like 2 seconds. Let me finish talking. I'll find
the
story for you. All right, let's pretend what's to do while I go here. But Biden said that in Georgia. We're going to vote for me and checks in the mail. I don't even know if they actually even got the checks. Next, Biden. We talked about felons. You seem to be real outraged about felons. Well, let me remind you that Biden's son is also a felon, and this is before any of the shit with Ukraine came out, possibly. This guy's a felon. We got videos of him sucking dick with crack pipes and guns and shit. We know he's not the most great guy. Now, I'm not going to bash his degeneracy because I'm a degenerate, right? That's not the substance of my complaint here. No, the substance of my complaint here is that this guy's a convicted felon, and Biden also had classified documents in a garage, not locked, that anybody can get into, 20 feet from his felon convicted son, that should not have any access to these materials, who we later found out was using his connection to his father to further gain financially and potentially do some maybe treasonous bullshit overseas. I'm not saying none of any that's confirmed. We can't even investigate it because it's pardoned. But the fact that he's already a felon and he literally was within 20 feet of an unlocked door next to a Mustang is where they're keeping this shit. I'm not so sad about the Mar-a-Lago thing. This just seems, once again, really ticky-tack. And, like, I just, as a voter, I'm sorry, you can't sit here and go, listen, even if I wasn't a Trump guy, I'm not even the biggest Trump guy. I think he's a 90s Democrat. You know, I know people try to pigeonhole me as MAGA, but I hate his gun control views, right? He's a New York Republican now. That's basically a Democrat, right? Like, I'm sitting here going, there's a lot of shit Trump does that I'm kind of sus on, right? And so when y'all are going, oh, well, hey, you know, Biden, we should just excuse this and then get mad because Trump did this other thing that's actually less worse, in my opinion, with the with it being in a locked closet or at least a locked storage room. That seems safer than having it next to Cracky Magoo, his felon son, who we find out later, like I said, has ties to other countries. You tell me which is worse, and you gotta tell me it's Cracky Magoo. I'm sorry, otherwise I can't take you serious. And yeah, those are my real objections there. I think I know there was more, but I guess I'll let Pentuple go, and then you can go again.
No, I want to hear him answer what you said.
All right, go ahead then, LSP.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I wrote down a number of things. I feel like there was 3 main points. One was about gerrymandering. I don't know how I made myself clear about that. Hopefully, you understand my position a bit better.
I do.
The reason I have a problem with gerrymandering is because we're not supposed to have a situation where elected representatives get to decide who the voters are. As a republic, we're supposed to be equal. I believe in the fundamental equality of all citizens. That's in fact one of the principles our country was founded on. And gerrymandering just fundamentally violates that equality. It takes some citizen and reduces their vote or their representation and empowers other citizens to instead, which is just ridiculous. More than that, the state should not be. Okay, come on.
Well, I was just going to say, to be fair, just to kind of throw back and see how you respond to it. I'm not trying to like gotcha or anything. But a lot of gerrymandering is kind of like there's some. I mean, Texas is a bit of a unique state because if I remember correctly, you guys just kind of make a grid. But a lot of states, I mean, no matter how you do it, like how would you do it to like ensure that there's zero? I think in a lot of states, the way it's done, you're going to be able to argue that there's gerrymandering in most forms that you can come up with. I'm just curious if that I don't think every state's intentionally gerrymandered is what I'm saying. I think some states are going to have some variance just naturally.
No,
Texas
you're right. Not Texas
hell,
is fucking insanely in gerrymandered, but you're right. Not all gerrymandering is a deliberate and intentional action. Not all congressional divisions.
It can be,
not all
but I'm just saying, like, go ahead.
Not all congressional divisions are necessarily a consequence of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering itself is malicious and intentional to deny some people equal access to the vote. That's what it is.
Sure, but
a better system for me would be get rid of gerrymandering and have either nonpartisan commissions or use the shortest split line algorithm to determine housing districts so that we're all actually equal. Continue.
So, but see, this is where it's interesting because now it's like your evidence of gerrymandering is that a district votes more heavily in one direction and you want to try to like rebalance these districts to be more even. But that's like, I don't even know what to call that. I don't even think that's gerrymandering.
Is not my
that's
evidence
like
of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering.
No, but you were saying that it like
I'm saying gerrymandering
there are
as a consequence makes some people's votes worth less than others. But gerrymandering is not
in
evidence.
the system to a degree.
Our system, while we have, so Gibbs, when I was talking earlier about how I like the Constitution, I do, but our Constitution's got a lot of flaws, and you'd be dumb to admit it. You guys are neglecting those flaws too, right? Why you don't give a shit about checks and balances?
No, I don't even.
Can I just talk? Okay, one of those flaws that ends up being identified very early in our country's founding by Eldridge Gary was that you can manipulate congressional districts to imbue some partisan advantage, and that's exactly what it's been used for time and time again, including based on race, historically. Maybe not at the country's founding, but historically. It's a system that encourages corruption because it encourages politicians to isolate and select voters who will support them regardless of what they do, right? It only incentivizes them to become more extreme in their politics because now they have to win a primary rather than a general election. They have to defeat the next best conservative against them or the next best liberal against them, which means going further to the left or the further to the right. And I like a system where we are bipartisan, where we have to work together because we live in this country together. So I don't like a system that fundamentally encourages partisan corruption by isolating voters and making them less equal. It's un-American. I can respond to the other stuff, by the way, Gibbs, if you still want me to. Or that was the one thing I had to stop where...
Yeah, go ahead, finish out, and then you have that.
Okay, Biden also has documents, so you brought that up. You're right, Biden did have documents. Biden also returned those documents when he was asked to. Donald Trump didn't. In fact, Donald Trump lied that he returned those documents. He had his lawyer sign off on the subpoena that those documents were returned when they in fact were not, which is why they had to raid Mar-a-Lago, because they were like, yo, you got these documents, we need them back. He still had those documents. In fact, they were classified documents he was still showing off to other people. Biden didn't show off classified documents to other people that weren't allowed to see it. Trump did it in Mar-a-Lago to impress people. As for his son being a felon, I don't disagree that his son's a convicted felon. Gibbs, he's a felon the same way we are. We both consume drugs. Okay? His son struggles with addiction, as many Americans do. And that is cause for concern as he gets closer to the levers of power. I don't disagree with that. But he's been to treatment, and he was given due process, right? He was convicted of a crime. It was pled out. Biden's pardon power against him only makes sense because Republicans have been waging a campaign against him by weaponizing the DOJ. And I've pointed out time and time again how they continue to weaponize it, such as firing law enforcement that is in any way prosecuting January 6ers or investigating Trump, right? There's no reason to trust that the Trump DOJ will be impartial, unlike the Biden DOJ, which actually convicted his own son. Joe Biden's own Department of Justice convicted his own son. So I don't...
Hold on. Do you not think there are factions within the Department of Justice? Like...
What, like Republican, Democrat?
Yeah, so say you're
No, I don't.
What?
Just what I said. No, I don't. I think they serve a common mission to serve the American people by investigating crimes. I don't believe they're going to neglect Republican crimes and prosecute Democrat crimes or the other way around based on whichever way the wind blows unless directed to by the president who's issuing MAGA questionnaires.
Okay. So you have more after that? Because I want to talk about the judge thing real quick.
Let's talk about the judge thing.
Bro, I didn't read Peter Strzok's emails.
All right, I'm going to go after Temple, but I want to ask Temple a question here because I already know the answer to this because I worked at many law firms. Do judges lean one way or another quite often in their rulings, Pentuple?
I mean, you can like research a judge before you go and get a general sense of their like legal philosophy, but I don't practice that kind of law, so I don't want to come here as a...
just real quick, what kind of law do you practice?
I just work at a firm.
Doing corporate law? Insurance law? What are we doing?
I generally don't talk about it on stream.
Okay, so I'm the kindergarten teacher. You're too pussy to talk about what you do for a living.
First of all, there's NDAs and shit that can be involved.
What school? What's the name of the school you work at?
I ain't telling you that. Nigga, you tell me where you work. I'll tell you where I work.
Exactly.
Apologies. I let my south side out.
You're a teacher. That's the same level of details.
One moment here. Let me just end the stream.
Shit, do you actually have to end the stream? I apologize. I didn't.
Yeah. You got to end the stream and restart it. So the Temple end.
Fuck! I ruined your stream. I'm so sorry, my guy.
Wait, what? I have to end?
Yeah, because he said the N word. So end it and restart it.
Who did?
I let my east side out.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll take the.
All right.
Yeah, earlier he was like, you could say the F word and every slur.
Just end it and restart it, and it'll be like fine. That's
okay. Well, I ain't ending.
What if I just say it again?
Don't do that.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll do the first clever thing you've said all day.
Yeah. So listen. So I don't even know where we were. Like, okay. So with the judges, where I was going with this is like in Texas, we have judges that literally run for office, right?
Yeah, judges might be partisan. You have Republican and Democrat judges who run for office. I don't know what's confusing about that. Pentuple's going to continue with his histrionics. You're asking if we have factions within law enforcement. I don't think you have law enforcement deciding based on politics how they're going to conduct investigations. I don't think there's evidence for that. You can act flabbergasted. You don't have proof.
I can give you an example right here in Texas. I can give you an example right here.
Okay, what's the law enforcement example right here in Texas?
Sheriffs declaring that they would be.
Okay, just to be clear, people who are elected.
Well, that's law enforcement, right? The sheriff's law enforcement.
Okay, we're talking about the FBI, dog.
Bro,
You don't elect the FBI.
The FBI's got tons of different factions. Like, I don't know how you can argue that. Like, okay,
Dude, did you not pay attention to like the Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, like that whole fucking like investigation, the texts that came out? They were blatantly targeting. No, 2 FBI agents.
Targeting how?
Is what they were. 2 FBI agents is what they were.
Yeah, they were 2 FBI agents. Targeting how?
Yeah.
Targeting how?
This is the
targeting how?
Are we not talking about Gibbs' point that there are factions in the FBI, bro?
No, finish the sentence.
Is this how you respond every time you get blown out?
By asking for details? Yes. How did they target? What did they do?
Well, okay. So
Brother, Gibbs was making the point. Gibbs was making the point
you
that there
ain't
can
got
be
shit to say,
factions.
dog. You ain't got shit to say. Just go back to your corner and cry again. Mute yourself. Gibbs, continue.
Gibbs was making the point
And you have nothing
that
to
there
say
can
to
be
it.
factions in law enforcement. I don't understand it. Do you get muted now? Like, how does this work? Like, Gibbs was making the point that there can be factions at the FBI with different interests who are maybe even insubordinate, which is the evidence for that claim. One of the evidence, there probably is tons of evidence. This is just the first one that came to mind, is the Peter Strzok, Lisa Page debacle, where they had FBI agents literally talking about setting up insurance policy investigations in case Trump became president. Like, that is evidence of Gibbs's claim. And you're just like you can concede this point and we can continue having a conversation. You don't have to like spurg out as soon as we make a point in defense of an argument.
Yeah, I like definitely think it's pretty clear that there's factions in like every governmental agency.
Okay. Wait, can I address that? Because go ahead. Once again, he interrupted me for this nonsense. He can't say how they were targeting, and the reason he can't say that is because we've already had this investigation. The Inspector General's Inspector General office already investigated the text message from Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. By the way, it's Peter Strzok, not Lisa Strzok.
That's what we're talking about.
I know.
That's what
I'm trying to talk about. If you'll just behave.
You don't know about it.
Just go to your corner. The Inspector General did an investigation into those text messages.
How are you so mad?
One at a time.
No, let him cry. I'll come back. Just let him cry. Continue.
Dude, I'm not crying. I'm the only one with my face on camera, brother. You've left 4 times and you have your camera off. You are literally probably crying. I don't have even any reason to believe that you're not.
Hold on, he did cry.
You're projecting so hard.
There's a problem with the OBS, to be fair. He was trying to get in here with the camera.
Right.
Yeah. Secondly,
yeah, probably the teardrops on the keyboard fucked up OBS.
If anybody's here is getting a bad time, I'm on 2 cameras.
Okay, is he done crying?
Yeah, so
cool.
Yeah.
So the Department of Justice, the Inspector General already investigated those text messages. It acknowledged the appearance of impropriety, but it didn't conclude that there was any evidence that personal political views influenced anything. Right? That's the Inspector General's
Yes,
report.
there is.
That's okay.
Dude, we had the whole Fusion GPS connection where the DNC and Hillary Clinton Foundation, when she was running for president, paid Fusion GPS.
Totally.
Christopher Steele provided them a dossier that was fake, that was used with FISA warrants that were signed off. FISA warrants signed off on this fraudulent evidence. Kash Patel is the reason we know this, because he got subpoenas through. Like, you just obviously know nothing, and you just want to be like spurg out, and you get mad, and that's fine. But it's just clear that you don't know anything, and so you just deflect and defend and whatever. It's fine.
I haven't deflected once. I've attacked every single thing you've said.
You have not.
On the other hand,
you have not attacked everything I've said. You've been saying, "Oh, no substance, no substance." Please mute him. Please mute him, or I'll leave. Mute him, or I'll leave, Gibbs. Please.
He's crying again.
Hold on. So, is everything he just said true? Like with the Kash Patel and the FISA awards, is that true?
Yeah.
Or no?
Okay. The Steele dossier thing is true that they got a FISA warrant based on the Steele dossier.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
That's the FBI.
Okay, he's going again.
This is literally proof against your point again.
You
once again,
just cannot shut the fuck up. You literally just cannot shut
Dude,
the fuck up.
you've talked 90% of the stream.
Hold on,
You've talked the most of any of us.
And you've cried the most, like a bitch.
So that's fine. I want to hear what your response to. So is what Pentuple said about the FISA awards with Kash Patel and all that good jazz.
It's half true. It's half true. It's half true.
Let him finish.
I know, this motherfucker can't shut the fuck up. It's half true, and that the Steele dossier was a basis for an investigation opening up. As part of opposition research, the Hillary Clinton campaign turned this information over to the FBI, and Steele was a former intelligence official who did this opposition research, so they took it seriously. And they did what they're supposed to do. They investigated. That's what they're supposed to do. As for Peter Strzok's text messages, which is what he's originally talking about that I'd like to respond to, if he could just shut the fuck up, that was investigated by the Inspector General. There he goes again.
Still wrong, still mad.
He still can't shut up.
Dude, you are so emotionally unstable right now. Like, you just gotta relax. You are taking up the most time talking. I'm literally sitting here in silence for like several minutes at a time while you fucking scream and rant about. And by the way, just you're getting basic things wrong. If this was all on the up and up, Kash Patel wouldn't have had to get a subpoena to find out about this. It wouldn't have been the one time we had a congressional subpoena in this situation. Like, how is this? This is a teacher. This is a teacher.
Well, okay, just let him.
Well, you gotta mute him. I wasn't doing even that aggressive shit. That's crazy.
I don't want the music thing going. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Since everybody's playing mean, here's what we got. We got about 40, 30 minutes left here. Here's what I'm going for. Here's how we're gonna do this, because I feel like I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just like go in a circle, and I'm just gonna mute the people that are not speaking.
Thank you.
People.
Thank you.
I mean, it's gonna be both of y'all. Now I'm gonna just mute one in the middle. Now the problem I have.
Hey, I was on point at least.
Hold on. The problem I have with this is, so there's two things happening here. I just want to point this out for both y'all for future debate shows. One. Yes, there is a lot of monologuing, right, and that's fine. Usually there's like a give and flow. And it's like where one person will say something, and somebody will object, and then they'll object to something, then you go from there and back and forth. And sometimes you do have to get your whole thing out, just like say, let me get my point out, yada yada. But sometimes there's some interruptions that'll happen on most shows. Now, there seems to be some dislike between people here, so that's not happening.
I love everybody, just to be clear.
And that's fine. And the second problem is we have to fix Pentuple's mic, because when y'all both start arguing, I can't hear either of y'all because it cuts y'all both out for some reason. So I'm gonna mute one of y'all when one of y'all's not going. LSP, Pentuple just talk. You can go. I'm gonna mute him. I'm gonna stay unmuted so I can try to moderate for both. And then when you're done, he's gonna respond and you're gonna be muted. And then I'm gonna go because I haven't talked for a while here. And Lord.
So I'm going first, or he's going first?
Well, you just went.
You do not listen.
Were you done? Were you done, Pentuple, what you were saying?
No, I was looking at your screen. I didn't catch who you were saying was going first.
That's because you don't listen.
Well, if you just finished, unless you had more to go, and then I'll let you finish real quick, and then he's gonna go. Do you have any more? No, okay.
No, I'm good.
I'm gonna mute you real quick, and then you're gonna say everything you want here. Now I want you to explain why it's only half true and all that good jazz, and then everything you want to say, and then I'm gonna mute you, and he's gonna go, and then I'm gonna mute you both, and I'm gonna go. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the reason it's a half-truth is because the Steele dossier was a bit of opposition research financed by Hillary Clinton's campaign against Donald Trump, which is what campaigns do. And they hired a former intelligence official to make that investigation. And what he found was concerning stuff that ended up getting turned over to the Department of Justice. This was amidst a Russian disinformation campaign to help Trump. They intentionally tried to help Trump, including offering information to damage Hillary Clinton's campaign up in Trump's tower. Okay, so the FBI did what the FBI is supposed to do. They see all this stuff and they're like, this looks interesting. We should investigate and find out what is true and what is not true. That's what they're supposed to do, and what they can clear Trump on, they do. FISA warrants were a consequence of that. Absolutely, the FISA warrants were a consequence of that. I don't deny that. What Pentuple does is jump narratives by quite a few years, all the way to the FBI's investigation of Donald Trump and Peter Strzok's text messages with Lisa Page, who he initially called Lisa Strzok, but we'll let that slide. Those text messages were certainly concerning. I don't deny that at all. They were in a relationship with each other, and they were sharing messages, and I don't deny that even factions within the FBI have political views. Everybody's got political views. That's fine, right? The question is, do they bring it with them into the office to affect their work? And that's where he doesn't have evidence, right? The Inspector General investigated those messages. They investigated Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and they didn't find any evidence that Strzok's personal political views influenced anything that he actually did. If you like, I could provide you that Inspector General's report. The reason Pentuple rejects it is because it's inconvenient. Because Pentuple relies on this narrative of a weaponized DOJ that's been out to get Republicans so that he can justify Trump weaponizing the DOJ to get Democrats. That's why he doesn't have a single issue with inspector generals getting fired without informing Congress, like is legally required. That's why he doesn't have an issue with a convicted felon being president. That's why he doesn't have an issue with people who beat police officers now being released back onto the street by Donald Trump. I don't even know where to start on like half of the criminal activity I could do with like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys shit, right? So we could table that. These motherfuckers committed a seditious conspiracy and Donald Trump just pardoned them. Yeah, I think that more or less covers everything he said. He's free to respond now. Or you, if you like. We're going to go down around the room.
Cool, fantastic. I'm going to mute you. I'm going to let him respond. And then I'm going to unmute y'all, and I'm going to respond because it seems like y'all at least will let me go. Thank God. But I'm going to mute you now. No hard feelings, anybody.
Just to be clear, I've let everybody go.
Yeah, it just seems like this is the only way we can all play nice. So, all right, I'm going to mute you now. All right, cool. I don't want anybody accusing me of not being biased or anything, or being a plant, or a fucking snake oil salesman, or a grifter like fucking Consuela points. Sorry, I had to get my dig in there. Go ahead, Printable.
Well, just to close out your show, I give Trump an A, and I would say he's just been wrong the whole time. No one was charged with sedition. Like, you don't even know the basics of the conversation, which is why it's really not interesting to hear what you have to say on any of it. Just makes me more and more ingrained in my position against the Federal Department of Education, because I do think that one of the biggest issues that probably needs to be tackled in that bubble is the quality of our teachers. When you have someone like this who gets so emotional when they're facing a contradictory position, that's not someone I want teaching, even my elementary school age kids. So, I mean, it's just, he went through the same 3 points. January 6th was a crazy insurrection, blah, blah, blah. That debate's been lost. It was over. Biden sealed the deal when he pardoned the committee. There's really no explaining that. The idea that, we had to do it because of this incoming weaponization is crazy. You're admitting that there's something they could have been prosecuted for. And it's very obvious. Anyone who is like actually a Trump supporter and knows the people who were involved with Jan 6 knows the intent of people who went to DC on Jan 6. And I don't think I know a single person who went to January. I know a lot of people went to January 6th. I don't know a single one who went there with any indication that this was going to happen, with any desire that this stuff would happen. I believe it was an inside job. I think there's a lot of reason to believe that the feds pulled that off. I think the pardons were extremely base. And this guy didn't know anything about the plea deals. He's only read headlines on CNN, which is, typical. It explains why he's a basic, level 1 leftist. So that was interesting. But I'll just leave it at that. Trump's based A+, best 2 weeks ever. I hope he keeps it up for 8 years.
All right. Well, I'm going to go now. I don't know. I'll just unmute y'all both because whatever. All right. So I just want to, before we wrap up, I want to talk about the Inspector General thing. So I've done a quick cursory research here. And see, it seems like the Inspector General position was established. Yeah, bro, God damn it, bro. I feel like I'm turning into Destiny with the Wikipedia deep dive searches during panels, but that's not a good sign. But anyway, I've looked this up, and it seems like it was established in 1976. Since then, every president has terminated a lot of inspector generals, right? So, to me, it looks like it seems like it's, and then appointed their own people. It seems like it's a very what's the word? Biased, factionalized position, right? Like it's something that people like eliminate when they come in. They put their people in power. So the argument that you've made about with the Inspector General, it's not really holding any water for me because I got to say, it seems like all the charges they tried to throw on Trump were, like I said, really ticky-tack ones trying to stop him from getting elected or getting to that point. And it did seem weaponized, right? Do I also think that the Hunter Biden thing was weaponized? Yeah, I absolutely hate the Hunter Biden thing. I actually hate the Hunter Biden thing more than I hate the Trump thing because the legal ramifications of gun laws going further down the line. So yeah, when I'm looking at this, I absolutely see factions within the justice system. The argument that the Inspector General let this go, well, didn't let it go. It was that they had no power to stop it because they were going through the right channels when they pushed the Hunter Biden thing. It's not like they were just letting it go because of the goodness of their heart and they wanted to see justice served. Yeah, they just didn't have the power in that area where it was going down. There's a reason why it was tried on Trump's case in New York with Alvin Bragg leading the charge, right? Because that was a friendly district, right? It's the same thing. Like I think Trump probably got 2 votes there total. And it's very rigged. Like that shit's, and I'm not bitching about that, to be clear, because I think that factualism is a good check and balance against each other. However, I also am under the other, like, I'm also okay with when somebody comes to power trying to clear out those factions and putting your own in, because the Dems have done it, the Republicans have done it, and so I'm just not buying this narrative whenever it seems, for lack of a better term, trumped up charges and like by a biased like system in a specific area to get him with the felony charge. Because like, bro, if you tell me, let me just, I'm just gonna just throw this out. If I go up to the average guy and like on the street and I go, hey, do you think somebody is not qualified to be president because they paid their mistress hush money so their wife didn't find out, but the guy's done XYZ and all that shit's impressive in the XYZ? Do you think they're gonna tell me if I go up to the boys and ask them that? Oh, should he not be? No, that's fine. And that's basically what the trial was over the hush money bullshit in the one that he got convicted. So I'm just like, who gives a shit, right? Like that's like when you hear an NBA player cheated on his wife with a supermodel. Like, did he do it? Yeah, it's awful. But am I gonna like give him shit for it? I'd probably do the same thing. Sorry, honey. Like I'm gonna smash Heidi Klum. I'm just saying. That's
Didn't
like I don't. Yeah, go what?
I was gonna say, just in support of your argument, didn't she have to pay his legal bills in the civil case that they had? She lost the civil case against him.
Yeah, because of the non-disclosure breaking, I believe.
Yeah, and so what this came down to was whether you believe that he would have only done this if he was running for president, which is a legal argument that was obviously made. And I mean, that comes down to, what type of judge philosophy has. I would argue. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could argue that he would have only done it if he was president. I don't know if that was like the final rule that the case came down to, but generally speaking, like that was the
down to the faction thing with the judges, right? There's a reason why the Florida case got dismissed, because he had a Republican favored judge, somebody he appointed. Clearly, his faction had somebody there dismissed. He didn't have that in this New York case, so of course,
right. Well, also we got to keep in mind that a lot of these cases are still like, even though he's been convicted, there's the appellate court and stuff like that, and it does seem like some of these will get overturned, and that would probably be more evidence of politicization, because it's easier to get things through the trial court than the appellate court. And I mean, there's there's a lot of variables in the air. There's we'll see what the history says in like 6 months and stuff on some of these cases. But I mean, generally speaking, I think it's very clear that they were political. People know that these cases affect the election. They know that like these are things that you could charge probably every politician, especially, I mean, Gibbs and I get on this all the time with the insider trading stuff. Some of them are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, there's no really like any honest or innocent explanation for this. If we were to like throw the books at all of DC, although I do know you have some nuanced positions on that, Gibbs, I will admit. But if we were to throw the books at everyone in DC, do you really like think that we wouldn't? I mean, I feel like it'd be harder to find people that were clean. I mean, how many of these people during like their campaigns? I mean, especially when you've been there for like 15 election cycles. Good Lord, some of these House members have been there for that long. Like, they get just ingrained in this system of like, here's how the funds come in, here's where they go, and like nobody's going to prosecute because everyone's doing it. And like at some point, it's like, we know that they're just like, I mean, these people are making insane money that's not supposed to be like a lucrative position. When you get $110,000 salary and then all of a sudden you're worth 20 million, it's like something's a little weird, right? I mean, like. This is what motivated me to become a Trump supporter coming of age, because it's like I see the corruption in government, and then everyone's like, "Oh, it's just him. It's just Trump." And I'm like, "Why is it just him? He's the only one that's been like making it so like obvious to everyone how corrupt our government is. If Trump was like not in the circle, we just had like the Mitt Romney Obama politics back. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I do believe he's the one coming out after the corruption. I think the corruption's so much more like prevalent and ingrained than we probably both think.
Just to piggyback off that, and then I'm going to turn it over to LSP, because we've been talking for a second here. I want to also, LSP, I did just DM you if you want to take a gander. It's I sent you a forward.
I'm reading it now.
Yeah, cool. Pat, I just wanted to say you saw about the two. So what I sent him goes was the Biden saying the 2,000 vote for me, $2,000 goes out the door tomorrow. Now as for what you're saying here, yeah, I lost my train of thought. That happens. What were you just talking about, Pentuple? The
Skibbity, Ohio, brain rot Riz, Palestine, Ohio.
no. What did you just say before that? Though
I'm not surprised you have the vocabulary of a 10th grader.
Yeah. But what did you just say? Something like cue my memory here. I had something. What was your last sentence here, though?
I was reading chat, but we were talking about I don't know. LSD's got a great memory and great attention span. Maybe he knows.
I fucked up, bro. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, my brain.
Does he? Or is he just gonna stay silent and pretend he doesn't? He didn't.
I'm
lose
just
track
waiting
either.
for my chance to respond, like to everything. I'm still waiting on you guys.
Yeah. I wanted to say one thing. I had something really important I was going to say there. We were just talking about the before the Georgia thing. All right, fuck it. All right, go ahead.
Chat, what were we talking about? Someone in chat has to know. Someone in chat.
All right, it's gone. It's fine. Just go ahead, LSP.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, like I said, nothing of substance. Everything I had brought up. Pentuple says, what does he say? He says Trump's an A. There was no seditious conspiracy. By the way, Gibbs, I sent something to you.
Nobody was charged with it.
Somebody was, and they were convicted of it.
No, they weren't.
You know that he did a little bit. Gibbs, send him the shit.
Dunk on me and prove me the name.
Yeah, well, how about I finish my statement first, and then I'll get you your name after, okay?
Yes, that's fine. All right, go ahead.
January 6th was an inside job, so we're memeing that conspiracy, which just makes like the Trump's pardons more nefarious, right?
Yeah, why didn't they bring the National Guard up? Real good question.
Hold on.
He can't shut the fuck up. It's amazing.
Go ahead.
His vocabulary being skibbity Ohio Riz is like on point because he's just like a fucking third grader. He's just got to talk. What a dumb fuck. Holy shit.
I mean, because I just went brain rot, but to be fair. All right, go ahead.
No, he's a dumb fuck. January 6th, so the accusation that January 6th is an inside job like makes Trump's pardons even more nefarious because that means like these pardons are so Trump knows, right, that the people who were attacking the Capitol, who were sent there, they're set up by these people who were in the federal government. The federal government orchestrated this, and he's pardoning the criminals who attack cops? Like, that makes it even worse. Trump's own federal government orchestrated an insurrection at the Capitol, and Trump pardoned those insurrectionists? Yeah, that makes it even worse. So he didn't really have much to say to really anything I said. Like, I wrote down what he said. He said 3 things. One of them was dumb as fuck. Oh, 2 of them were dumb as fuck. You said to respond to you, Gibbs, you were talking about the IG being established, but then somehow you segue into Trump's charges were ticky-tack. The Inspector General doesn't levy criminal charges. They might investigate, right? But they're not the ones that bring the charges. They're separate from that. They do internal. Okay, well, if I misunderstood you, that's fine. I wrote down what you said as you were saying it. But if I misunderstood you, that's fine. You said the charges on Trump were ticky-tack. I'm sorry, they weren't. Donald Trump factually committed the crimes he was accused of. That's why a jury found him guilty of the crimes he was accused of. I don't agree that New York was rigged, right? Trump's from New York, right? It should be rigged the other way, if anything. You've got Donald Trump taking campaign funds to pay for the silence of his extramarital affair while his wife was pregnant. That's not why his donors donated that money, and it's a violation of federal law to use money like that. So when you say, well, if I go to the boys, is this disqualifying me to be president? You know, who gives a shit? You should give a shit. You're an American citizen. You should give a shit when people who are running to be your president are corruptly using campaign funds to hide embarrassing shit about themselves. 1, it's not transparent, and you want transparency in your president. And 2, it's corrupt. You're not supposed to use it's against the law. Like, I don't know another way to say it. He's a felon. He's a felon, dog. That should be concerning to you. I think Pentuple said this point earlier where it's like, well, if you throw the book at anybody in DC, you'll dig up so many charges. Dude, we did. Look at all the charges we did dig up. That should be concerning to you. It should be so concerning that you should want campaign finance reform such that we get transparency out of where campaign funds are going so that we can find this fraud before it happens. Or find this fraud after it happens and not have to wait until a president's out of office to actually start an investigation. You should want transparency such that we know who's donating to which campaign or such that we don't have, even further for campaign finance reform, we don't have an unelected billionaire being in charge of government because he basically bought his way in. Donald Trump was the top donor to the Elon Musk was the top donor to the Trump campaign far and away, And that's only bought him more influence in government. That should be concerning to you, such that he was actually able to tank a bipartisan spending deal before Trump even got into office. That should be concerning to you. If you're concerned about unelected bureaucrats undermining we the people, that's an unelected bureaucrat undermining we the people. And you might say, oh, well, we voted for that. Yeah, it's a tell. It's a tell that you don't really have the values you say you do. And if you did, you'd back campaign finance reform. It shouldn't be the case that 80% of the wealth in this country is owned by the top 10% of income earners, who then use that wealth to engineer outcomes that are beneficial to them in our political system. It shouldn't be the case that we have a spoils system in government, that civil servants are subjected to political tests. That shouldn't be the case. Not in a country like this. We didn't get to be the best country in the world by letting Mickey Mouse Gilded Age shit like that slide. We put laws like the Pendleton Civil Service Act in place to stop that kind of shit, right? And it breaks my heart because I have to share a country with you guys, and everything that makes our country great, you guys just seek to undermine. And then when you offer justifications for it, those justifications tend to be weak. You know, I give Trump an A, and his insurrection, that was an inside job. I don't know how to argue with this fantasy land you're living in. Everything I've been saying factually happened. Somebody was charged with seditious conspiracy. There were seditious conspiracy charges against members of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. They did attack the Capitol. They had a plan, coordinated plan, right? And they showed up with zip ties and weapons, and they attacked police officers, and Trump pardoned them. Donald Trump got into office, and he said all those violent criminals can go free. He ain't done shit for the price of groceries, but he let violent felons out of prison. Everything I just said is factually true. And it bothers me. So when you say, you know, who gives a shit? I give a shit, and I don't know why you don't. Okay, there's my closing. I'm sorry, I don't know if we're closing. He said we were closing earlier, but that's my closing.
Yeah, that's actually perfect because I was gonna say we're close to the clock. I do have somewhere else I have to be at 9. So yeah, that's fine. Tell us everybody where you can find you, as well.
Okay, I'm A27L or just LSP. Can I just link my YouTube channel in your Twitch shit? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't use Twitch a lot. Oh, I gotta agree to these rules. I violated those rules so fast.
Yeah, I noticed. So go ahead and just drop that in there.
Dog, I'm from the east side. You've been the east side.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, so perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, that reminds me. I'm talking to a girl from the east side every once in a while, and dear Lord.
We need to hang out, my guy.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll figure something out. All right. Go ahead, Temple. Give us your closing, and then tell everybody where to find you.
Hey. Come find me on Twitch. Just Twitch. I just hang out on Twitch.
Pentemple TV.
Let's go. Pentemple TV right here.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, and I guess closing thoughts. Yeah, I disagree with everything you said. But that's okay.
He's all wrong.
We could dive into it. I don't on a different dive. Maybe the next time we get together. It's
Oh wait, real quick. Can we look at the thing I sent you about the seditious conspiracy? Did you send that to him? The former national chairman of the Proud Boys was sentenced today for seditious conspiracy and other charges related to the breach of the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. That's from the Justice Department's website. Henry Enrique Tarrio, 39, of Miami, Florida, was sentenced to 22 years.
All right, I'll look at it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
can I ask you a question too? Do you blame Mayor Bowser for rejecting the National Guard? Because in hindsight, it was like this shouldn't happen. In hindsight, she needed to approve that, and she denied it.
No, I blame Donald Trump for.
Do you lay some blame at her feet? What, you blame Donald Trump because Mayor Bowser rejected the National Guard?
You asked me a question. Do you want an answer, or you just want to go?
Well, I would like an answer that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, sure. You're too dumb to understand it, but here's the answer that makes sense. I lay the blame at the commander-in-chief of the National Guard.
You have made very obvious that you're an elementary school teacher today.
Well, continue.
Let him go real quick.
You're a teacher. No, I lay the blame.
Hopefully not for long.
Why do you even ask questions? Holy shit.
Reform is coming.
Hold on. Just let him answer your question real quick, because then I gotta give something.
He barks a lot because I made him my bitch.
No, you left the group chat and demanded I was muted like 8 times, brother. You were literally unable to stand on your own argument.
That's because you don't shut the fuck up. Like you just cry a lot.
You spent, dude. When we go back and watch this,
he's still crying. He's still crying.
I'm muted. All right, you know what? I don't give a shit about the question. All right, guys, this has been. I feel like I've gained a lot from this. I really gained a lot from this conversation. I didn't have a headache before. I desperately have one now. And I'm definitely going to take 5 minutes here to smoke a couple bowls. If you're interested in more of this content, I'm going to be hosting the debut show of Lynn's Crafters tonight. We're going to be doing some theory crafting with Fabian Liberty and iCal Rich. And then we're going to have a segment called Opposite Day where we take positions that people would not expect us to have. Not devil's advocate, but positions that people wouldn't expect. Like, surprise, I'm for reparations. We're not going to discuss that tonight. Come find out why. It's for a conservative reason. I'll give somebody kudos if y'all can guess why. Anyway, moving on. That's going to be the show. 9 p.m. Central. We'll be starting here in about 8 minutes. Go ahead. All right. So
Thank you, as always.
thank y'all for coming.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that it was such a peaceful conversation. LSP, we'll talk again soon. Pentuple, we'll talk again soon as well.
It
Sure.
was fun. We crushed it.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's what the people want.
If you say
That's what
so.
the
Peace, love, rock and roll. That's why he bitching out. Ah, what a pussy. All right. I hope that was a fun stream. I expected it to go a little. I had like so many fucking notes I didn't even get to. Like, we got bogged as we always do. Like, I have to peel away like 8 layers of conspiracy theory to have like any kind of conversation. It's actually like really frustrating. We can't agree on reality. Like, I have to educate this motherfucker like that somebody was charged with seditious conspiracy. Like, and he's like, own me right now. Give me a name. Fine. It's like, oh, fuck me, man. This guy doesn't fucking read. By the way, he started the insults first. I was really respectful. This motherfucker then starts throwing the insults, so it shows how out of depth he was. I didn't talk about Trump shutting down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which provided $19 billion in redress for consumers and resulted in $6.1 billion in savings for consumers. So there's $19 billion in redress charges, like money going back to consumers, and $6.1 billion in savings by exercising oversight over banks that have exorbitant overdraft fees. Trump just shut that down. We didn't even get to talk about that. He gagged the CDC, the NIH, and the FDA all at a time when we're in the midst of a bird flu outbreak. They cannot be gagged. We're in a bird flu outbreak. They need to be talking to hospitals. They need to be talking to healthcare professionals. So we didn't really get to talk about that. So no figure. Tariffs led to higher prices. Donald Trump promised to bring down prices day one. He did the opposite. Prices are going up, and the stock market crashed. Both Mexico and Canada basically, stared Trump down, and now we're an embarrassment on the national stage. But I'm sure none of these bozos are gonna see it. They think this is a projection of strength, and it's just silly. Dude, you don't project strength against your fucking allies. Like, why are the tariffs higher on Canada and Mexico than they were on China? So, whatever. There's that. By the way, his tariffs in his first term, this isn't the first time he did this. Donald Trump's tariffs in the first term resulted in GM, General Motors, closing plants, and it killed like 14,000 jobs, right? It wasn't like an insignificant number of jobs were lost. Donald Trump's tariffs in his first term ended up killing jobs here. It didn't save jobs. It did the opposite. We didn't get to U.S. aid, which, let's see, the U.S. aid provides treatments for HIV, malaria, all that jazz, reduces poverty. It exercises American soft power. They just took a hatchet to that. Again, no checks and balances established by Congress, and we're just going to roll that into the State Department. You can't do that. So we don't care about checks and balances. We don't care about the Constitution. We say we're really tired of unelected bureaucrats in the deep state. Dog, the unelected bureaucrat with the deep state has consistently been Elon Musk and Doge. That wasn't established by congressional law, right? The staffers were supposed to be fucking secret. Now it's a crime to say who these people are that are taking an axe to institutions that were established by the representatives of the American public. My fat ass. You have a right to know who is taking an axe to these institutions. That's insane to me. He never responded to the firing of the inspector generals. There was nothing, 30-day notice was required to give it to Congress. He never responded to that. It just violates the law, erodes checks and balances. Never responded to the IG and just glibly dismissed the IG report on Peter Strzok because it was inconvenient. Gutted aviation safety. I didn't get to talk about how Donald Trump thinks having black people causes plane crashes, so there's that dumb shit. He's got no evidence, absolutely no evidence that DEI caused the accident, and he's just shitting on the memory of a serviceman, right? A servicemen and women who were dead now before the bodies were even cold, or I should say before the bodies were even warm because they're fishing out of the Potomac. Before those bodies were even recovered, Donald Trump was blaming diversity hires. Under the previous administration, with all those diversity hires, we didn't have a single mid-air collision. Under Trump, we've had 2. Okay? So these guys are just pull toys chasing red meat. In fact, it looks like staffing issues caused the accident. Get this. Staffing issues caused the accident. People at the FAA were offered buyouts.
It's working.
Fabian, what's up? I'm ranting. I was just on stream.
There we go.
I hear you, Fabian. What's up?
Now I'm just waiting to get pulled in.
You're not getting pulled into shit. There's no... The stream just ended, dog.
About this Gaza situation.
Fabian, you hear me?
Dude, will you, like, slow... You're fucking hiring.
I can't tell if you can hear me. Oh my god. Okay. Well, I'll see you, Fabian. Good luck, buddy. So where was I? Yeah, so Trump gutting aviation safety. You've got one job. I'm sorry, you got one person doing the job of two people at the FAA. Trump put in a hiring freeze day one at the FAA. Then he offered people at the FAA buyouts, right, to quit their jobs, which is insane, right? People who bitching about our government being too big neglect the ways it's big and, incorrectly, like centralizing power with the executive, and attack the ways it's big necessarily, like aviation safety. That's a big deal. The aviation safety should be a big part of the government. Shit, I don't know, man. Let me see. I have all these notes. I didn't even get to use half of them. Why did I even write this for? Fuck. Oh, the immigration blunders. Yeah, okay. I think at some point they were talking about efficient use of government and Doge sniffing out inefficiencies in government. Why are we deporting people on military flights? It's like way more. It's like 4 times more expensive than it is for a commercial flight. But whatever. It's a show of power. Oh, speaking of big government, dictator shit. Trump saying we're going to deport American citizens to El Salvador. You should be opposed to that. Establishing immigration camps at Guantanamo Bay. You should be against that. Those are lawless regions where people don't have access to lawyers, where people can do whatever they want and there's no law that applies. That should bother you. It's legal limbo. It's un-American. It's un-American to have a place where you don't have the rule of law, right? If we're exercising any kind of oversight or jurisdiction over Guantanamo Bay, it should be a place where people do have access to lawyers. And they are afforded the legal protections necessary. This just comes down to people, really, it's just they don't like immigrants. I know they hate the R word, but they're fucking racist is what it is. Oh man, the other thing I wrote this note down when I found this out. I didn't even get to use it. Did y'all know Biden deported more people than Trump did? Like Biden's record for deportation surpasses Trump, which is funny to me because he did it without like the blunderous diplomatic failures of the military planes and the spats with Colombia and the arguments with Mexico, and it's in a lot of insane shit. Anyway, I don't have much more to add. I had fun. I kind of wish I got to use all my notes. I'm a little disappointed that the lawyer, there acts like a fucking child constantly. Like Gibbs asked if like he can bring this guy along, for the content. I was expecting, I don't know, a little bit of self-control from him. I didn't get that. I wasn't the one interrupting him. He was the one interrupting me. More than that, he was the one throwing the fucking insults. So, talk about whiny little bitch. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed my stream. I'm going to turn this into a proper video eventually. I'm super sorry I said, the N-word and caused Gib to... I'm black. I should be allowed to say that shit. All right, whatever. Peace, love, and rock and roll.